conversations of, hey, that we're live and that's our usual bit. But yeah, no, I mean, God, they just dropped that photo last night, and the internet goes wild.
Oh, that was hilarious. Wait, are we live right now?
Yeah, live.
I'm still trying to find I think I found a good stock photo, because that's my brand now. I want to embrace, because I use a lot of, here's a secret. I use a lot of stock photos for I might pay for Getty Images, but they say it's like super expensive. I use a lot of them for like compositions, but they're so great though, because they really are the platonic form of images in this world. They really do embody sort of like how shall I put it? They embody sort of like a salience, if you will, that's like perfect for the corporate world, and becomes like this becomes like on itself a form of like stripped down, like you don't know these people, you don't know what they are, you don't know how they're created, who photographs them. I mean, sometimes they'll have like the name of the photographer, but like they really are sort of like a stalwart image that is like perfectly replicated by techno capital. But it's amazing. Some of them you'll get like really good expressions, and you'll get like really good compositions and lighting, and they really are great. And I feel like my commitment this year would be to meme them, as instead of like, because I figured like, how do I break away from like the typical meme templates? Because I'm really bad for that. Like I do post a lot of coal. Like I'm not gonna lie, I post like a ton of coal, a coal mine, and I just like when a meme takes off, it like really takes off. But I feel like if instead of feeling guilty about a meme template, like just now I tweeted one that said like at the Trad Cathy Girl Summit, like everyone's doing that after that photo blew up of like all those New York City, for those who don't know, all these like transmogrified
I just saw
New
the
York
picture.
City, yeah, e-girls, like 6 of them. It took 5 of them. It took 5 of them, to quote Zandig. There's like Mari, which I don't like. Pariah the doll. Yeah, see, like there you go. Like that's abstract. That's says something, but it makes me feel less guilty because it breaks away from the usual meme template. Because when people are posting, like when people are posting, I'm at the Trad Cathy Girl Summit, they post like a picture of Doom, or they post like some video game still where like, you're flame throwing demons. But like, for those who don't know, like there's Mari, there's a Pariah the doll. There's like, I feel like I'm speaking the name of the demon if I'm saying the names. So like, there's like all these New York City, like Dime Square adjacent e-girls that it's funny Honor Levy wasn't there, but of course Honor Levy's like a real Trad Cath e-girl, so she wouldn't disgrace herself by being in this photo. It's just because I want to get in a Wet Brain podcast one day. But it's they will never be Honor Levy. But anyways, there's all these e-girls around New York City. They're all around New York City. Everyone in New York City has a Twitter account. Okay, I've discovered this. And so they like posted this photo looking so garish and so transified that that like everyone just freaked out. And even people were criticizing me, saying that like this is why we should gatekeep, this is why the Trad Cat thing has gone too far. People misconstrue that. It's not that Times Square Massacre. Thank you, Fishy Frenzy. And need those super chats to Prude, because last week I got a ton of super chats. Maybe we can get Prude to tweet some outlandish stuff. But anyways, people were freaking out of this photo because it represents the sort of like hipster appropriation of trad Catholicism, where all these like e-girls, and some of them are of questionable gender, can like just appropriate that aesthetic and look like it's like basically like doing, and this idea is older than people think. This is like what Madonna did in the 80s with Like a Virgin, right? It's pure subversion. But the thing is, like, people are freaking out because all these like e-girls, like some of them, they just post bait every single day. And so they succeeded. They baited people. They baited me. They baited you. They baited everybody. So it's like you have this network of hipsters that are appropriating a reactionary aesthetics. And let's face it, the ground zero of this is not my girl Anna. Okay, Anna Kachayan is pure.
Oh, for God's sakes, Gio.
It's really that it's really Dasha. Really, like Dasha is like the matrix that holds together the dime square aesthetic hipsterism around trad Catholicism. Okay, like that's the problem. Like it's listen. I'm an Anna guy, as I've said, and I'm an Anna guy, and I don't care. Like Dasha, I don't see like what the big deal is. I mean, it's whatever, right? But I feel like this is a problem, okay? And I've sort of made me look at my own simping of e-girls to say, you know what? Maybe I've contributed. Everyone in Manhattan has a Twitter account. It's not natural born journalist, but yeah, that's true.
Thank you,
Right,
Niles.
Ranger. That's a very good point. So yeah, I see my internet friend in there as well, because he knows this. We're both terminally online people. Listen, I feel like I've questioned my own simping of e-girls, but I've never simped for any of the e-girls in this photo. In some of them I put girls in scare quotes. But I've made me question. It's like we're fueling this tulpa, this ergogor, this vicious cycle on the internet, on Twitter, and it's like I'm starting to question myself here, because maybe as much as I've tried to say that simping is hearkening back to the sort of the face of the other, it's like what Byung-Chul Han talks about in the Agony of Eros. It's like maybe it's not this romantic chivalrous ideal. Maybe people are misconstruing it, and really simping in most cases is this debased level internet parasociality. And it's like, what am I doing?
Oh my god, we finally reached bingo. Congratulations, Gio. You've reached the apotheosis of the current problem, in which your simping and numerous others has...
Let me take a hit of my vape to calm down. But,
by all means, get it all out, Gio. I'm going to just nip this in the bud before we get to the main topic of our conversation, because we're like 7 minutes in. Is that
but you watched the Heliospace? What did they say? Like I missed it.
I'm not. This is not the topic that we had planned out for today. I have
know,
no
but
desire
it relates,
to give.
Though, because
I have no desire, Gio. I have no desire to discuss the already disgusting hipster appropriation of Catholicism, or the fact that by making a mockery of it and laughing of themselves to objectify
You're an
themselves,
ortho. You should be rubbing your hands about this.
It advocates. All that it advocates for is their continued engagement, trolling. They get themselves off on this, and it's an insult to the actual traditions and faith, both of the Catholic Church but of Christianity in general. And the problem is, at the end of the day, is that we have gotten to a point where the culture in itself, men included, men most affected here, is that we ourselves have gotten to a point where we enable this by our parasociality, our desire to, want something, the ephemeral ideal woman. And in this case, it's not a manic pixie dream girl. It's for disaffected
these are not
right-wing. No, they're not ideal women at all. But, exactly.
Maybe
Captain
Dasha.
the topic
I can
of
understand why Dasha has
Gio,
an appeal.
Enough.
But she's not my flavor. Like, listen, you got to realize, simping for Anna Kachina is much more mature. It's much more of the, you know what I mean? Like
you're defending your own habits, which enables the worst aspects of the internet.
Yeah, true. You're right. I should stop. But I just want to weasel my way onto the Red Scare podcast one day. So no, I'm kidding.
You have that in. You have the mutuals, and it's only a matter of time. But until then, good.
No, but you're right. I feel like this is enabling the worst aspect of it. It really is. I remember this one thing, and I shouldn't bring this up because maybe I'm going to throw it under the bus. But I'm not throwing a bus, but cause beef with people. I remember when Mari posted this thing where she's eating raw bacon, and Default deleted all of her tweets. She quote tweeted, said, this is really just pornography, guys. Like it's the same thing with that holistic e-girl that had an OnlyFans that tried to do the primal, I eat raw liver because of raw, type of stuff. It's like that same cycle. It's like trying to take the profane and make it sacred again. And it's like this crazy alchemy that internet right-wing politics is becoming this morality car wash for these e-girls. And it's, that's the quote from Casino, by the way. It's like, listen, right-wing far-right politics does to e-girls what Lords does to humpbacks and cripples, okay? To quote Casino. Oh, that's a quote right there. Someone should put that on Twitter.
Dear God.
Oh, what happened to Default? She may or may not come back to Twitter. She wants to just focus on her content. And actually, speaking of which, I have an episode with Default that's going to come out soon that's about Humdog. So, oh my god. But yeah, so yeah, it does what Lords does to humbacks and cripples. But it's just like I'm going crazy about this because I'm having an existential crisis over the nature of simping that I've defended so much. You know what I mean? Like you know who. Shout out to my favorite, one of my favorites. You know who you should simp for? Who is an actual trad cat? Simp for Byzantium on Twitter. Okay.
Oh, all right.
Simp,
That's enough.
my
That's
friend.
enough, Geo.
Sorry,
It's
my friend
enough.
Zia simp for Byzantium. So
That's
sorry.
enough.
Sorry. Oh my god.
Okay, we are 10
Can't
minutes
believe
in.
it.
Welcome to episode 26 of the Digital Archipelago.
Kick Geo.
I can't kick my co-host. I like him too much, even when he's freaking out over.
Can I
his
ask you
bad
something before we
behavior.
go? Like, this is, I think I asked you this before, but
Yeah.
be honest with me. Don't lie to me.
I'm anything but honest.
I know. But what made you choose orthodoxy above like Catholicism or your roots within like Protestant American Christianity? Like, what made you make that leap to orthodoxy over Catholicism? Be honest.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you can go back to some of my earliest streams in the midst of 2020 and 2021 when I first started in the midst of my own brace with my mortality. I guess you're getting my conversion story, so here we go.
Yeah.
I went to the few churches that were still open, and so there were a few Protestant churches that were open. I went to Lutheran services. I even traveled.
Yeah, I remember this. You went to like the whole gamut.
I went through the whole gab more or less. I went to Assemblies of God, which was very charismatic. Church of Christ, Lutheran. I even drove quite a distance to attend an Anglican service.
Oh, wow.
And which was very pretty. I think that if the things that had happened in my life went a different way, I may have gone there in the end. One of my favorite people to still talk to is an Anglican priest, just because he's a well-versed man in literature and he visits our parish every Saturday for Vespers. But and I also visited a Catholic church as well before finally going my way all the way down to Orthodoxy. But I had amidst through my various medical stuff, I had encountered I had a post-op infection, which had left me in the hospital for like 2 weeks, and they didn't know if I was going to make it within the first 3 or 4, which was pretty rough. And this is in the midst of the pandemic, mind you. So like your visitation and seeing people and access to all that is very limited. And but at the hospital that I was at next door, there was a gentleman in the room over, because of course everything was like very separated and isolated and things like that.
Yeah.
And going to be Greek Orthodox, and I was finally getting up and walking around about a week or so into it, and he was there for I think recovering from an appendectomy in a really nasty case of appendicitis. But he prayed for me, and that was rather profound. And to hear aspects of prayer and where he came from and his belief that I had never seen before, and he had told me to consider going, the very famous sort of come and see bit that you hear from there. And I finally took him up on his offer. I found that there was an Orthodox parish not too far from me, and I was like very much akin to not wanting to go down those paths, because I'm at the same time I'm also on Twitter. I'm a content creator. I am surrounded by religious people of all stripes, both converts, cradle, and so on. And and even to this day I make it a case that like I didn't find where I'm at now via the internet. I didn't watch some Jay Dyer video and think, oh yeah, this is based, I want to do that. Like I actually despise that, and I make it a point that like if you go to church, regardless of your church or denomination, you're there for Christ. You're not there for the epic based trad thing, which kind of actually does
like those e-girls.
Yeah, like the last 10 minutes of this conversation. And
but was it the theological differences between Orthodoxy and Catholicism that made you, that convinced you, like, or was it just like more of like you felt more compelled?
I felt more compelled, and I mean, the Catholic Mass is beautiful. I don't think anyone will ever question that, regardless of your theological disputes or issues. Are the Catholic Mass is a very beautiful thing. But a lot of things in my path that kind of really concretized it for me on this journey was that, and I said it on the Ben Hur stream, is that I heard the Divine Liturgy for the first time, and I felt like I was at home, and nothing has ever changed that perspective. and then
But you must have more exposure to Catholicism though, being like growing up in El Paso, and you know what I
yeah, but
mean?
it's very in name only, in the same way that,
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
in
I
the
hate to
same
say
way
it.
that, in really ethnic communities, it's really the older women and men, it's like the yayas of the world, the Greek grandmother that really cares and believes in this stuff, who's probably seen the uncreated light, not, some guy that just came in.
Well,
But I mean,
that's
it's
what
very
Borzy said.
it's very cultural, the Catholicism in El
Yeah.
Paso. I mean, there are people that take it deadly serious. I mean, you will see multitudes of peoples with the cross on their forehead for Ash Wednesday, but it wasn't something that I ever had thought about when I was a younger man when I lived there. But at that time, as I started asking questions, I looked at the history. I started and throughout the course of this, I started rereading my Bible. But someone had suggested, well, why don't you go reread the book of Acts again? The Acts of the Apostles, and I started doing that. But very early on, and I mean, I told them, why I was there at every church I visited. I said, well, I've just, I'm going through this thing, or I've just recently, recovered from this on top of my transplant issues, and I'm looking for answers to get right with God. And lo and behold, my now catechizing priest had informed me that he had a childhood friend who had lived to his early 40s, but he was one of the first kidney transplant patients in the United States ever.
Oh
And I
wow.
was like, okay, well, there's a surefire sign that I'm probably in the right place. And I don't talk about my faith openly, in part because it's not my place as someone who's still
Mm.
being catechized. But secondly, it's just I don't want to wear it on my sleeve as the sole aspect of my identity. Like, I don't want to be another Orthodox Twitter poster. I like to think that I have more to offer than that. But I ingratiate myself in all aspects of the church, whether it's the services or reading. That I have a whole section on my bookshelf now that it's devoted to everything from R.C. Sproul, the Wonderful Catholic Mass, and now it's just nothing but like early church fathers. But um, and so that's kind of where I'm at. And then later throughout this year, I grew very close to a parishioner of mine. She's an older woman who had been battling cancer. I helped take care of her and her elderly mom while she was in surgery. And I've learned and I've taken up the art and practice of iconography. Sorry, Protestants, but
Mm.
I've fallen in love with that and that instruction, and I continue on with it. So yeah, that's a part that that definitely comes to mind. But I guess that's my story, and I have to find it funny because there's Javier Oliva, the Mormon who felt a burning in his bosom. I have to chuckle because our choir director, who's actually younger than me, but he converted when he was like 17, came from a devout Mormon family. So I just kind of find that funny. But anyways, that's my story.
Mm.
I don't tell it often, and I don't tell too much about it because I do keep my online life very separate from my parish life. I mean, my priest knows, but I don't try and make it a big deal to talk about what's happening there, or things like that. So, but
Mm.
there's my story. Where there you go. And yeah, that's where I'm at religiously. I wholeheartedly believe these things, and I mean, I was raised as a military brat, where the social aspects of like military chapels and chaplains,
Yeah.
it was more of a Sunday culture club where you would sort of rag on people for not being there every Sunday, and nothing more, nothing less. And so I wasn't really raised under a particular tradition. My grandmother's a devout Southern Baptist, and she's more than elated that I've just found Christianity above all else. She wasn't really concerned about the denomination or church. She's just happy that someone in her of my mother's grandchildren found Christ. And I guess that's where I'm at in a lot of ways. Is that it was easy for me to listen to what the church had to say, and I'm like, this all makes sense. I don't have too many theological qualms or queries. I mean, the biggest thing I think that was difficult to get over was I guess the Protestant knee jerk reaction about Mary Theotokos, and
Yeah.
other than that, I mean, the rest has been pretty easy to pick up on, but. That's more or less my story, is that in the midst of trying to find and get right with God, I guess I found the right place for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, like there are like weird permutations like with Catholicism. Like I remember Warzy talking about that with like the whole like natural Catholic conservative Guadalupe integralism thing is kind of like not true. like a lot of the Mexicans, they like are San Muerta people that come over, and like there's a whole cartel war going on. Like all the cartel people, they worship San Muerta apparently, or a lot of them. So like it really, like, even like their Catholicism is like markedly different than like a lot of European expressions of Catholicism. Like it's like there's always going to be like this set of differences. Like a German Catholic would be different. Well, actually, I shouldn't. That's a bad example because like the German oh my god, like it's oh boy, it's not the German Catholicism of like not even like the 1950s and 60s. Like it's, man, it's terrible. But no, but you know what I mean. Like it's Irish Catholicism is obviously going to be different than Italian Catholicism. Like you get the point. But it is funny, like when you do like hear people's conversion stories. Like I'm always like, the response I got was like, well, I mean, maybe if they're on the right track. I go, listen, first of all, number one, these people are not on the right track. But like, like number two, I think the problem is that if the aesthetic of a religion is like is like the draw, right? It's like top of the card. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand like that being powerful because like really, Catholicism kind of always had that as part and parcel, at least in Italy, part and parcel of their, like, you know what I mean? Of like the draw of it. But I feel like what we're dealing with now in terms of like the hyper online expression of like, I am this trad cath or whatever, or I'm like, basically I'm going from like an OnlyFans girl to like based right-wing holistic honey grifter. But it's like holistic, but like oh, speaking of the devil, you know what I mean? But I feel like this is different. Like what we're experiencing now, I hate to say, is not something that's good. You know what I mean? Like if you've converted your faith because of like, I don't know, it's sort of like New Atheist back in the day. If you're like 15 years old and you saw like Richard Dawkins calling some like Baptist pastor, like, I don't know, like a fundy or whatever, and that manages to convince you, then I'm sorry, it's like the same thing. Now it's like an e-girl saying that, I'm gonna like, I don't know, have like one photo in a church and it's gonna like be in these like revealing whatever, like there's something about it that just screams inauthenticity that I feel like the responses I've gotten are unwarranted when I say that we need to gatekeep. Like the narrow path needs to be instantiated. Like there are like a lot of terminally online autistic people that like have converted to Catholicism or Orthodoxy. Like, okay, I understand, like that's the best we're gonna get, but then at the same time, it's like this should be discouraged. I feel.
Well,
Like,
that's
I
the
mean?
one
Like,
thing that I think
yeah.
that I will always reference Ryan Turnipseed's video on the
Again, it's
Zoomers.
pornographing it. That's what it
Well,
really
yeah, I
is.
mean,
Yeah.
it has been pornogrified in the same way that Default Friend, who I wrote a response to her like a year ago about the issue of trad cath
Oh yeah,
Catholicism or
yeah,
whatnot, and
yeah.
I said, it's probably I think that there's some degree. I said at the time, I said that there is some degree that I think that there's probably more than just it being a fandom or an aesthetic kitsch. That there are probably some people that are finding Christ, and that I think he's a little more eternal than quote unquote being a Bernie bro.
Yeah.
And and to some extent that's still true because I know plenty of people who have converted or had come back to their faith originally. Because I mean, it seems to be the trend in Western countries, especially here in America, that you go through some sort of edgy atheist, agnostic, reject God kind of phase. Everyone sort of becomes a prodigal son in their own teenage years, and for me, that was definitely the case. I was sort of this agnostic, libertarian, conservative person that just enjoyed very hedonistically, but kind of cringe at who I was before. But that's a good thing. Yet, at the same time, right? This to maybe wrap up this bit and get to the main topic is that I think that a lot of people view it as a overly online thing. And Turnip makes a very good point in his video about the Zoomers. Is that people are so desperate for meaning because they're so deracinated and uplifted and have no culture that has been embalmed into them, either because of growing up in suburbia or that we've just totally destroyed all aspects of culture and religion, that, they'll go through anything. This is why people will go through all 4 quadrants of the political compass in a short amount of time. They'll try every religion and not stick with it until they are nothing more than an overly online, deracinated husk of a man or a woman. And what's worse is that makes them the most vulnerable to that kind of spiritual attack. Whether that means they become transitioned or they do what
Yeah.
we just saw with those women in the Catholic Church, that photo last night. It is disappointing. And to maybe transition to the topic at hand, the thing that also eats at me is that I usually will have a VPN on or something when I browse through Twitter, or I'm trying to access what's left of online digital libraries. But what irks me is that I see things like that advertisements on Twitter for things like Replika, Replika, and it's meant to be an AI chatbot service for people to not be lonely and to engage in risque and not safe for work kind of discussions and um, things like that. And it really does irk me because all that we're doing, I think, by depriving man of any meaning, or more importantly, the divine truth, that we're just going to create our own versions of Technics and create our own versions of machine. Like this is why I find simulation theory to be so funny when I hear it from like the I heckin' love science people. Is that, oh man, well,
It's just metaphysics for
what if we're
atheists.
living in a simulation? I'm like, you're literally just trying to create the firmament and the world, that God had already made. It's the ultimate expression of the God-shaped hole, as Pascal would put it. And that kind of just makes me laugh in that regard. But that Replika thing is a sign of what I'm growing concerned about, because I saw a picture today, and I'm going to bring it up here. And this was from Alex Hormozy, founder of acquisitions.com. And he was talking about where GPT-4 is going and the data that had been, let me make sure that I've got, okay, cool, nothing's showing. But he says, this is a frightening visual for me. He says, the first dot is the amount of data Chat GPT-3 was trained on. The second one is what GPT-4 is trained on. They're already doing demos. It can write a 60,000 word book from a single prompt. The only question I had about AI. And so this is apparently 175 billion data sets that it's worked with. And then this is
but is the book crap or not?
I don't know. And this is why I wanted to talk about it today, was because the real question becomes, well, in current academia, especially in the social scientists, sort of the humanities, is that we already have a replication crisis, and it's gotten real bad. And Patrick Casey and I were talking about this a while back, is that, well, we're really going to be facing some struggles because, well, what's the number? I'm going to pull it up real quick before I lose it. It says 82% of articles published in the humanities are not even cited once. Of those articles that are cited, only 20% of them have actually been read, and half of academic papers are never read by anyone other than their own authors, peer reviewers, or journal editors. So, like, we have no idea what the status of these data sets can be. And I find that to be more concerning because there are people already prodding and testing, because it'll
be like a soul call affair, but like every single day it will be another soul
and it'll
call
be
affair.
like a well, who watches the Watchmen, but who watches the programmers for these things? Because I mean, the thing that everyone's talking about with OpenAI these days is that, well, they're programmed by people. There's certain things that they can't talk about. So like, let's make a joke about Christianity, and then it won't make a joke about big homo or anything like that. And so I find that we're on the precipice of a very interesting level of technology, to where even Zero HP Lovecraft was saying that one of the things that this might do is that AI may automate litigation or arbitration quicker. And I find that to be interesting because, I mean, imagine small claims court, less than $10,000, or arbitrating over traffic lights where you can pay a small fee, and basically this can be automated and you don't have to go anywhere to like small claims or traffic court or something like that. I just find that we're in an interesting precipice where how far tech will go. And I think it'll be very easy to get people on board with it, because like with everything else, we are sold on the aspects of convenience and sort of material conditions. Because what was one of the biggest reasons that you saw on Twitter, whether it was astroturfed or not, about a certain medical sacrament in regards to the last pandemic, was that, oh, well, I wanted to go out again. I wanted to go to concerts again. well, I'm just going to use the AI because it's easy. I don't want
That's
to do research, or I
selfish.
don't want to write it. In the same way, I've already seen, and this was on Twitter earlier today, someone had listed a certain model of the GPT stuff, Chat GPT, in a paper to cite that helped them write or draft or whatever they were working on for an academic paper. And I just think that we're in a space where this is really going to be interesting, and to see how people react to it, because this isn't like we're so integrated into it now, where this will give, I think, an unprecedented level of automation and central planning that the early laissez-faire people of the late 19th century could have only created in their nightmares.
Yeah. But also like I think like the like material reductionist quality, that like that's always like going to be like, well, if it can write a novel that like can approach, like, I don't know, do people read novels anymore? Some weirdos do, like they'll like I guess like
We read novels.
yeah, but I mean like the novel like like the big like sort of airport novel like Franson or um Robert
Dean Patterson
yeah, Robert Ludlum,
or
like
Dean Koontz.
yeah,
Anything
yeah.
Lex Friedman reads.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh, that did you see the video and like all the comments like sucking him off?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, like yeah, that's right, because you liked my reply, it said human cattle. Um, but no, but I feel like the quality argument would be like, well, if they can produce a novel that can approach like maybe not, maybe not, well, some people don't like those 70s like new literature people. Like I know some people don't like you know, Steinbeck or like in the 70s you had, well, Steinbeck was what, like the 30s. But like I mean the 50s, like, Tom Wolfe, I keep forgetting his name. He was great. He was like, a based misogynist. What was his name? Um the oh god. He like had that big spat with Gore Vidal. Um I can't believe I forgot his name. But like those 70s new journalism people, those are like the last great wave of like novelists, you know what I mean? Like I know people don't like, but maybe the Chat GPT can't approach that level. But maybe if it can replicate like airport books, like, you know what I mean? Like Crichton or whatever, then people are like, well, I guess it's fine. And I guess like what's the argument against that? Like maybe if you can Norman Mailer, there you go. Thank you,
Yeah.
Norman Mailer. Maybe it won't approach the level of Capote or Mailer, or even like before them with like Morrison, or like, the greats, like I'm talking about like the American greats, right? Like maybe it won't approach that level of like the modernist novel, like Picton or Wyndham Lewis, but maybe if it can approach the level of like a Crichton or a Stephen King, then people will automatically be like, well, you know what? The vast majority of people that produce literature on the internet, it's kind of like basically, they might as well be like human AI programs by another name. Like people that write fanfics, people that write erotica, there's a formula to that. Like, most erotica writers, yeah, Gene Wolfe, there you go. Maybe won't be able to approach the greatness of Gene Wolfe, right? Like, I mean, we have to get Landshark maybe one day to talk about Gene Wolfe, but it's like you want a good you want to know the mind of Landshark. Read Gene Wolfe, read Baron Julius Evola, then you will know, and read Ray Pete, then you will know the mind of Landshark. Yeah, romantic novels have probably been written by machines, women. A lot of erotica is actually written by men with a pseudonym, because women will feel much more comfortable when they know that a woman's writing an erotic novel. But most erotica is written by men with pseudonyms, by the way. Matt Forney told me this. He actually made some money off of that. But anyways, the point being is a lot of literature like you find on like LiveJournal or Wattpad or whatever, or in like erotic short stories, they're basically might as well just be Chat GPTs, right? So the argument would go from the utilitarian, like scientism, utilitarian reductionist perspective would be like, well, if people find enjoyment out of it, then what's the problem with it? Well, why is this so bad? Like, same with art, and this is where I'm starting to come around to this argument, because I feel like maybe I have to save it because I know the Pharaoh wants me to do a stream on this. But let's say that if it bodies people with like Wacom tablets, and it bodies like furry erotica artists and people that like are Tumblr eddas and that have pronouns in the bio, and people like that make up the majority of like art, quote unquote, art Twitter and art Instagram. It's like if the handmade and the like actual true fine art is going to survive, and all these people are going to like have to go through a cleansing fire, then you know what? Bring on AI art. I don't oppose it anymore, because all of my enemies, they're going to be most affected. So maybe it's true. Like the Amarnites, like the online racists that are like memeing the AI art thing. Sorry, getting my tongue tied here. All of like the far right reactionaries that were memeing like AI stuff, maybe they're right. Maybe it won't, like, it'll spare true craft, handmade fine arts, and all the people that we hate are going to be most affected. And so you're gonna like all those, like, for some reason you have like a cadre of like rich furries that are willing to pay the most disgusting, depraved stuff. All those people are just going to go to an AI program, and all the people with art skills that sullied their souls by producing furry fan art, they're going to be most affected. They're going to be in the poorhouse. So maybe, I don't know. That's a terrible argument, but it's true. Like, I mean, it's photography in the artwork. Like, the work of art just had to change, and a lot of people, they don't like modern art, but
well, I think that there will be a desire more now than ever in the coming years is that people will want to make sure that the art isn't fake or that the art isn't AI generated. And I think that might spur a growth of specific content of, people already do, like, they'll do like speed paints, or they'll do their behind the scenes of making a portrait. And I think you will see more of that by artists that want to prove that, hey, I created this wonderful thing. And people are always going to be like, whatever, like AI art, Night Journey, Mid Journey art did that or whatever. And so they'll have to prove it, right? In the same way of like 4chan, when women would go on the forum and they would be like, well, breasts or GTFO, it would be more or less the same thing with artists. It's like, well, post your work or, get out of here. And, I think that there will be a few places that are genuinely spared. I think that it will be...
that used to be IC on 4chan, but then IC like devolved into just like people criticizing stuff. Like, it's not,
well, I mean, here's the thing. Here's what will probably stick around and not get affected by AI. And if anything, it will enhance the already used technology of that. For instance, what is BioShock Infinite's greatest contribution? It is not ruining the BioShock series. It is not being overtly racist against Americans. It is the use of Blender technology in pornography. The work behind Blender and 3D animation in BioShock Infinite unfortunately made porn better for some people and worse for everyone else. And that stuff will probably flourish. Unfortunately, the furries aren't going to go away anytime soon. Yeah. Those people, they're not going away.
There's a few comments like who said there's rich furries. Yes, unfortunately, there's a lot of rich furries.
Their suits are like $2,500. You need to have money for that.
Yeah. Someone who said this, Fishy Frenzy says that photography, films. Photography is art. But Fishy Frenzy said most internet art is basically just aesthetic images, not art. Yes, you're right. Exactly. They're just aesthetic eye candy. They're like this weird mix of like Art Nouveau LARPing as anime, LARPing as like other things. Like the post-Tumblr aesthetic is basically just aesthetic images. They're not like, I wouldn't consider them like, they're just the same repetitive crap. It really is like a culture industry on its own. But also, I think it was Record Deepness that said like Geo is embracing his class interests. Where is it? He's like, Geo is embracing his class interests over AI art as a real fine artist. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, don't you want that though?
His class interests as a physical artist.
I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. No, exactly. That's what I want.
this is what I find. This is why I also wanted to have this conversation, because you are an artist.
I'll give you a good
From
example.
Yeah,
Oh,
go
go
for it.
ahead, Prude. Go ahead.
Well, all I was going to say was like this is another reason why I wanted to talk about it, was just because there is going to be
Right.
conversations about it's like the thousand monkeys and typewriters, but eventually one of them will write Shakespeare. But is it authentically Shakespeare? Is a monkey capable of writing Shakespeare? I mean, maybe you can eventually get all the words right and it can do all's well that ends well or something like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, great. You managed to perfectly replicate Shakespeare. But is it really Shakespeare? Is it quality? Is it human? Was this written from the heart or with a talented artistic purpose? And that's the thing that I find interesting, though, about art is intent. For instance, you can ask, like the Saint Javelin thing, right? The awful sort of stuff that
Oh
I don't like.
God.
Obviously obviously
Yeah.
blasphemy, and we all know what it's trying to mimic. But it's simulacra. It's not real. It's not the real deal behind the work that goes into, putting down and
Did you see the
mixing
Floyd
egg
icon?
tempera. Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Not a fan, but I mean, for obvious reasons. But it's not the same as mixing real pigment with egg tempera and putting that on the brush
Yeah.
on the board, right? Like there's,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's why I wanted you to kind of pop on with the AI art discussion, because, well, who better to talk about it than an artist himself?
Yeah. Um, I think like the AI can potentially take digital scans of real works of art and maybe approximate the brushstrokes. Like I know what's his name? The Kitsch guy. The guy that like he's actually kind of based, even though he died, like he blew his head off on coke and alcohol. Um, American Christian Thomas Kincaid. Thomas Kincaid used to do this where he would digitally scan. He was the first artist to like really like perfect his grip game. He would digitally scan the artwork and they would like create perfect replicas of each color palette, and then he would deliver people these like precise digital scans of all of his artworks, of all of his like Disney kitsch landscapes, right? So I can imagine that given enough exposure, if you like feed enough like info, say like any artist that has like a very sensuous, very like chaotic surface texture and palette in terms of what they're doing. Like let's say pure abstraction or like semi-abstraction that still has the image. Let's say like Anselm Kiefer that does like layers upon layers of paint and like ages his paintings by like putting them out in like the rain and like the French countryside and like beating them down and like crumbling them. And so he's like Anselm Kiefer's trying to like experience in canvas and artwork these monumentally huge canvases, the process of decay, more or less, and on a cosmic level. But say you were to scan a bunch of Anselm Kiefer like texture surfaces, you scan them and he like glues bits of like string and clothes and barbed wire onto them and all sorts of different things. And say like a GPT like AI art program can perfectly replicate a surface that is as nuanced and chaotic as an Anselm Kiefer painting, right? But it can only still be the replication. Now, given enough prompting, you can maybe you can't truly replicate the headspace of Anselm Kiefer because a lot of it is up to chance because of by the nature of his process and the way he goes about creating his work of art. A lot of it can't be like totally engineered by the human hand, right? Here's another example, which is ironic considering printmaking should like more or less be like the same. But you have like say you have a printmaking technique like not just like with any sort of relief printing, you can more or less get the same image, right? But
Yeah.
when it comes to intaglio, when it comes to like putting ink in the lines that you burned into like either through chemical etching or through physical engraving of like a copper plate or like any metal plate, like I use tin or copper, like you will never get 100% the same image each time. You could be like a master at being a printmaker and each image will come out subtly different. Now, maybe an AIR program can mimic the subtlety of each print, right? To give them a whole sequence of like prints, say, of one image that's made to look, because you have like programs that can make it look like an intaglio print, like say an Albert Dürer print, right? You have like a lot of people that use these different brushes and like, on Wacom tablets and iPads, right? That can look like real paintings. But you'll never truly get like those subtle images in the way that like shallower lines degrade over time with like putting it through the printing press. Like you could try to replicate it, but by its inherent nature, the AI program can only degrade an image based upon like a very succinct parameter of things that are very uniform. It will only come out uniformly with like subtle differences. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that they can perfect the sort of happy accidents and the like the very intangible aspects of like printmaking or painting, because by definition the AI program has to be uniform. It has to have like a whole sequence of prompts and programs that make these subtle differences more or less coherent to an AI program. Like I don't think like it can get so sophisticated to the point where it can replicate like a perfect Anselm Kiefer painting or a perfect Albert Dürer print. You know what I mean? Like it's just it won't work to me. I feel like the logic of it can't cross over into those like very subtle human realities when it comes to the actual process of making a work of art. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. Like maybe some AI nerd can like put like all Albert Dürer print engravings through an AI prompt and like perfectly replicate the subtleties of it. But I don't know. It's just replication. It's not like the actual process of going through it. I don't know. Maybe. But hey, if it like can get rid of smut furry artists, then I'm all for it, you know? Oh
One of the
boy.
things that this kind of all reminded me of, and I'm going to get a lot of shit for it because I know that he's sort of a renowned commie and something else. But what also came to this conversation about AI art and also just what this might mean is they're not reproductions. They're attempts, but they're attempts to reproduce. They're trying to
Yeah.
emulate. And it reminded me of Walter Benjamin and his famous essay about the reproduction of art.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll just read a little bit here. Mechanical reproduction of art changes the reaction of the masses towards art. The reactionary attitude toward a Picasso painting changes into the progressive reaction towards a Chaplin movie. The progressive reaction is characterized by the direct, intimate fusion of visual and emotional enjoyment with the orientation of the expert. Such fusion is of great social significance. The greater the decrease in the social significance of an art form, the sharper the distinction between criticism and enjoyment by the public. The conventional is uncritically enjoyed, and the truly new is criticized with aversion. With regard to the screen, the critical and the receptive attitudes of the public coincide. The decisive reason for this is that the individual reactions are predetermined by the mass audience response that they are about to produce, and that this is nowhere more pronounced than in film. The moment that these responses become manifest, they control each other. Again, the comparison with a painting is fruitful. A painting has always had an excellent chance to be viewed by one person or by a few. The simultaneous contemplation of paintings by a large public, such as those developed in the 19th century with an art gallery, is an early symptom of the crisis of photography, but rather relatively independent manner that they appeal to artworks to the masses. And I kind of wonder that this is going to be.
Well, you thought it was a good thing, actually.
Huh?
Well, the problem with Benjamin, as much as I agree with him, he thought it was a good thing. He thought like the democratization of the image to the masses was like would create like the what he called the dialectical image, and that he talks about this in Constellations more with Paul Klee. But he said like that at the end of the essay, mechanical production, he said like, well, actually it's a good thing because then there's like revolutionary potential in the like politicization of the aesthetic rather than the aestheticization of politics, which is fashy and not good. So yeah, but go ahead, Prude.
But I wonder if that might be inverted, because now everyone can do it. And if someone wanted to, I mean, imagine AI art assisted Fashwave edits. I mean,
they already exist.
I'm sure that I was about to say I'm sure that they already exist, and I know that our Brazilian friend Doro did some work with who was it? I can't remember who, but they did a whole like video or bit of AI art paired with Thus Spake Zarathustra.
Oh
And
yeah, that's yeah.
so I mean, there's stuff there that I think will have potential to, maybe be. And that's the funny thing I think about our power dynamics here in the West is that for all the talk that the left likes to perpetuate themselves into this aspect of constant perpetual revolution, they really are in charge, and they have been for quite
Yeah.
some time, which always makes it interesting where you do hear arguments that say, well, Josh Schellenberger talking about the need for the right to weaponize or to utilize as a tool belt critical theory, which of course has gotten a lot of pushback, and some people would agree with it. But I mean, I think that
Yeah.
it does pit ourselves in sort of as the right in a revolutionary position, which has kind of been the inverse of what it's always been about the established order. But we do live in the midst of a post revolutionary period, which I find to be very, very interesting, because the stuff, because that's the whole thing about where we are in the right. And Remnant Poster talked about this, the need for the right to really embrace aesthetics more, whether by painting, woodcuts, lyrics, folk song, etc. It's not. It's something that I think that we're in a position now. Well, this could be a tool, but I think that it would also be anathema to what a lot of the right would advocate for, because, well, we do want people knowing how to paint on canvas that can create their own unique styles. Like there's not a lot of Fen de Veers or you or Matthew the Stoats out there, although we certainly need it.
Wait, someone. Donald Trump Gaming asked, he asked Internet Friend if he's Brazilian. I thought Internet Friend was Croatian, but no, yeah, Dora the Explorer is from Brazil. In fact, I have breaking news. It's so unfortunate because he's a good friend of mine. Dora the Explorer, due to the recent funny business in the capital of Brasilia, was arrested and executed by Lula's forces in
You're awful.
I hope he's listening. He'll be in my chat later on Telegram. Telegram.com/Shadow Productions. Please subscribe. I'm like, Dora, were you arrested and executed by Lula? Oh, God. I had to make that joke. I'm sorry. Yeah, but Dora, pray for our friend Dora pray for our friend Dora. He was recently arrested by Lula's forces, and it's not looking good for him. So I'm sorry. That's a terrible joke. I'm very sorry. I don't know why I find the arrested and executed thing so funny, but oh man. But you were talking about the AI. What were we talking about, e-girl? Oh yeah, I was gonna say
I love how you were trying to think of what we were just discussing being Benjamin and AI art, and your mind first went to e-girls.
No,
Jeez.
because I was gonna say about AI pornography. That would be like, can you imagine? Like the realism of it would be like if you're like a turbo like Coomer simp, and then like you have an AI program hooked up to some kind of weird like Neuralink thing. You could basically replicate like your favorite e-girl in the simulation, or you could make like deep fakes of like all the e-girls having like OnlyFans nudes, and that's it. I could like, here's the thing.
That's the future of compromat, regardless of people do it to engage in pornography or not. I mean, that is the future of blackmailing politicians. Because
if you want a holistic honey, well, actually, she did. I think
that's a $20 term.
If you want, like, think of any e-girl. Like, think, like, if you want...
We're just entertaining your fantasy at this point, aren't we, Gio?
Well, I'm trying to think of e-girls that haven't posted nudes. Because I'm thinking, like, I was going to use the example of Ayala, but, like, Ayala has an OnlyFans, so that's not going to work. Like, you know what I mean? But it would have to be hooked up to some VR program. It would have to be, like, total, like, sex bot VR pornography. And it would just be, like, a terrible... Like, it would just be, like, living hell. And it would be
well, this leads to the dehumanization aspect that is another thing I wanted to get into. And I'm going to try and deviate this away from Coomerish topics, but imagine though you are someone who is like this, and I mean, okay, so for instance, 6 years ago, 6 years ago, what 2017 around, so that time frame there was a lot of discussion about deep fakes. And there was a lot of academic journals talking about how this is going to be a really great way to make it harder and harder for us to determine what is real and what isn't, especially in regards to elections. Now, the only time that I remember the press really talking about deepfakes being used was one time during the 2020 election, where they had Biden saying hello to one state. In the background, it had the backdrop of another, and they had used it to
Biden
change the
has many
banner.
deepfake photos, many of them.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
When you analyze like the editing
let's not kid
glitches?
ourselves. This is the first deepfake presidency in the history of the United States. But I mean,
Oh yeah.
So I get it, but at the same time, like one documented instance.
You think Stalin was the only
that,
one that edited photos? Come on.
Yeah, come on. But in this regard, what I'm saying is what a neat way to, fool 330 million people. Although, most of the time it's always the uncanny valley feeling that we haven't yet crossed, thank God. But the other thing that comes to my mind, though, is that you just mentioned women or men as well, right? Like all it would take was some wonderfully clever, AI touched on deep fake, and then someone looks like they're cheating on their wives or their spouses,
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's, or their hands going in front of the microphones or something, whatever. Like, oh, you weren't really there, And I find ourselves now in a position where who knows what the future of culture will look like, because we're all completely online, and this is only going to upscale the deep dead internet theory to 1,000,000, because it's like, well, who's human, who isn't, and it might be one of those rare moments where someone could probably scan all of Bronze Age perverts tweets, and bam, and they'd be like, okay, go be a bat bot on Twitter, right?
We already have those, but I'm not subtweeting anybody. But no, but I mean, like, well, I think like the practicality is that Trump, like the Trump era, unleashed that sort of energy, but you don't really need a fancy AI program to actually do it, because like what happens is, just by the media environment of something, that you might as well have just said it anyways. For example, with Trump, did he actually call all Mexicans RPists and, murderers? Did he actually say that? Like when you analyze the clip? No, right? That's you know what I mean? Like, but the way that it was perceived and the way that the media quoted it and the way that they've nuanced the story around it, the way they've sort of schmoozed it, there's like at least a huge percent of America that believes that Trump called all Mexicans RPists. You know what I mean? So, like, I get what you're saying, but it's just like it's already happening by virtue of like again, this is a paradox. We have more access. Every single person on this earth, even in the global south, has more access to recording and video technology than ever before with camera phones. But yet we're in the era where we don't believe things. There's sort of like the mass materialist atheism around the image did not happen, meaning that people are more ambiguous about what they're seeing in front of their lying eyes more than ever. You know what I mean? Because of just the nature of the way that like hypertechnics has manifested and the way that you've linked it up to hyperpartisanship and so forth. Like, I think AI would be like that. If you had an AI program that would convince people that, I don't know, like, who can you discredit? Blake Masters has sex with Ayala right there. Like, if you had oh my God, like, you know what I mean? Like, Blake Masters cheated on Ayala with cheated on his wife with Ayala. You had like this AI program that could generate these images. There would be a huge swath of people that wouldn't believe it anyways, or would say it would be so ridiculous that, oh my God, Spasticus Autisticus, because of last week, I'm sorry, Prude, I got distracted by our huge dono, our man, our pay pig, our very own signal boot, Spasticus Autisticus. Oh my God. We'll address your question at the end, or right now.
I'll do this one now just because it's
right.
100. I hate to be accused of favoritism after my 100-pound super chat to Gio last week. So have this one, Prude. Exactly 100 pounds sterling and 0 pence to you. 1 pound, nothing more, nothing less. Don't spend it all in one place.
But you got to request a ridiculous tweet for Prude to tweet out. That's you squander your chance, Pasticus.
Oh
Maybe if
well.
Spasticus demands that you tweet out something ridiculous. But anyways, my point being is that even if you had a deep fake of like a politician sleeping with some e-girl, you would have a huge swath of the population that wouldn't believe it even, or would say it's propaganda. Like I feel like the death blow of deep fake images would not be as sufficient as it would be maybe 10, 15 years ago. Like 20, like I mentioned that Outer Limits episode where it had like deep fake images.
Yeah.
That was almost 20 years ago. That would have been a death blow because people don't have access to like not just information, but the discourse around a public event in a news cycle the way that we do now. So I feel like the proliferation of deep fakes would maybe be personally terrible, but it wouldn't be as terrible as it would be like 10, 15 years ago. People would like just ignore. Like there's people that literally believe like certain people that are sex pests or whatever that like haven't done anything wrong because of their political affiliation. Or like you know what I mean? There's people that don't believe like all these like Redux journal stories of like trans people doing terrible ghastly things. People just don't believe it because like, well, I'm on the political left, I don't believe it. Same like I mean I'm sure there's right-wing examples as well. Like I don't know what happened with the Matt Gaetz thing. Is the whole Matt Gaetz thing, is that true? Or like I
It
don't
was funny. I just talked about that yesterday on my Substack post about
yeah,
the
yeah,
leftist ratchet because
yeah.
whether it's Matt Gaetz and the question of a 17-year-old girl or Jim Jordan allegedly knowing something about like sexual abuse in a wrestling team, I mean there is a point that you may not need a deep fake. Is
Yeah. Yeah.
who said it? Frasier only on the NSC. I
When you
love
can
that
just
name.
lie exactly.
Yeah, when you can just lie, there you go. I mean, or the same thing about like the Madison Cawthorn thing. Like, who knows if he was like gay or not? The issue is that like,
That video was pretty weird though. I gotta
yeah,
admit.
I
It was
mean,
it
but I
was
mean,
one of those like liminal spaces images, you know, that you
yeah,
find
but
on
at
the
the same
internet.
time, I'm thinking to myself that looks like something out of any frat party I had ever gone to in college.
Yeah, true.
So
True.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure it was just like I see that shit all the time in universities. So it's like, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, they say the military, if you're in the military, there's a lot of
Oh yeah,
Sussy Baka stuff that goes on in the barracks.
that and you wonder why men are so quick to get married in the military to get out of the barracks.
Oh man,
Um,
yeah.
so
Then
yeah,
like but that was the whole like 2000s era politics around Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Um Madison Cawthorn in the back rooms. No, but that's what I mean. Like, what was the specific thing Matt Gaetz went out with a? I
I
heard
think like an
15-year-old.
18-year-old girl or
Oh,
whatever.
I mean that is optically bad, but it's not like I don't know. I don't want to get into this debate because I was
Yeah,
listening this thing. If you go to my Telegram, telegram.com/General Productions, I was doing a bit of live commentary with the Destiny interview with Ayala. And Ayala just her mere presence alone managed to drag out some of the most like damningly quotable things from Destiny. It was hilarious about like the age of consent and stuff. But yeah, 18 like okay, like listen. I'm not being a moral F slur here when I say that that's kind of bad to go with. How old was he at the time with this 18-year-old?
I don't know the whole story, and
It's not as bad as other things, but it's still pretty bad. It's not that like I don't know. An 18-year-old that's on the line. You know what I mean? Like that's too. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of on the line if you're like
yeah,
in your
you're getting
30s.
on that Law and Order SVU territory.
Yeah, you know that. You know what's funny though? I shouldn't counter signal the people that saying it's on the line because the people that use that, you know what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to do the whole like conservatives are the real groomers type of thing
A
about like
tale as old as time.
yeah, exactly about the pastors that yeah, see Patrick Casey's right. It is unwise for a congressional representative to be getting involved with an 18-year-old. You know what I mean? Like that's just the reality of it. You shouldn't give the left ammo. And like, let's face it, is Matt Gaetz really that based anyways? I don't know.
I
He's
mean,
like on the
he did
fence.
lead the charge with regards to the speakership thing, but I mean,
Well, there's people that say that
he's
was
far more
kayfabe.
kayfabe or not. I
Yeah.
mean, It's better kayfabe than
he's
Ted
a Trump.
Cruz just talking for 24 hours about Obamacare in like
Yeah.
2013.
Obamacare was never gonna that was not gonna go anywhere.
Like, oh cool, this thing was gonna pass, but you decided to speak for 24 hours just to, or
was
like
that
however
Cruz or
long
was that Rand
it was
Paul?
Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
And I mean, just when he pulled that stunt, I was just thinking to myself, oh, it's so sad about what he could have been
Yeah.
in regards to.
Like, again, I'm not an American, don't take my word for it, but then Patrick's saying like Ghoster may be better overall. Like, okay, Ghoster's like he's pretty old though. Like, that's the thing. You need someone who's younger. Like
Well,
Matt
how
Gates
old
had an
how old is
opportunity.
Matt Gates?
He's only like not even 40, I don't think.
He is exactly 40.
Okay, yeah, there you go. I don't know, like it depends. Like Matt Gates, obviously he's more based than like other people, but it's just like, yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Like Gates definitely is a front runner. Like again, I mean, we're not, this isn't a politics stream, but it always turns into one.
Always.
Like when you look at like who the Republicans have in 2024, I hate to say it, but the reality is like the Republicans are probably going to take a mulligan in 24. I don't know. You need, like, again, you don't have people to, like, Gates could be a guy you can cultivate. Maybe not for a presidential run, but like, you need a younger guy. You need a Blake Masters to cultivate when he like is a bit more older. He can win a few races. He's younger. He can be a forerunner. You know what I mean? Like, even, I hate to say it, but even like DeSantis is relatively young in politics years. Not that he, like, again, I think that DeSantis doesn't have the charisma of like a national campaign, but I mean, they'll probably run him. And did he announce, is he going to run in 24?
No. Oh, I've heard no announcements, but I mean,
yeah. That's
who
what I mean.
knows?
At the 2024, I hate to say, you're probably going to have to write the Republicans off, in my opinion. But I mean,
Lord only knows what's going to happen, but I can't wait for whatever Republican candidate somehow manages.
President Newsom, President Newsom.
I'm of the opinion, and here's the funny thing is that all this, my last tangent on politics for today's show has been that, oh, look at all of this random, the country's going to shit for all obvious intents and purposes.
Yeah.
The borders being invaded. Even the Mexican president.
Well, it's going to be like North Vietnam near the border now.
Oh yeah, it looks great, especially with the cartels.
North Vietnam circa 71 when the Americans left.
And then at the same time, right, we're watching this whole very coordinated Biden classified document shit. Like, someone wants him gone for 24. He said that he would run.
He'll do a Nixon or he'll do like a George Bush Senior type of deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, those guys lost or were kicked out of office. Whereas,
well, I think, didn't George Bush Senior, he said he wasn't going to pursue a second term because
he ran for re-election.
Oh, I thought he
got his ass handed to him by Bill Clinton.
Oh, I thought it was like he said he wasn't going to pursue a second term because wasn't it Clinton versus Bob Dole?
Or no? Yeah, for Clinton's second term.
Oh man, I'm getting my dates confused. I was under the assumption that Bush Senior just like stepped down. He's like,
no, the only guy that I recall in the last 100 years. No, Gerald Ford. Well, Gerald Ford tried to run for re-election and also got his ass handed to him by Jimmy Carter. But I mean, the thing is that who was it? The last president that ran for one term was like Calvin Coolidge, and that's been like 100 years. So,
yeah, Joe, remembering that episode of The Simpsons?
Newsom Fetterman, it's coming, man.
So true.
I can't wait.
Newsom Fetterman, oh my God, America's dude.
You'll win Pennsylvania and California and sweep the country, yeah. But
you better hope. Listen, I'm gonna say it right now. You better hope that one power in Eastern Europe wins, or else like. Or else the Democrats have to, then the Democrats have to get serious if there is this rumor about a winter offensive. But
well, while the plot of Sicario plays out at the it just feels like
all that funding that went to Ukraine should really just go to the Mexican army. I hate to say it, like that's what I mean. Like it would make more sense for America to militarize the U.S. border than the Ukrainian border. To put it that way.
Well, that would okay. Here's the thing, though. Great, if you want to militarize the U.S.-Mexico border, what about how many of them that are already in? How many of them that already have mixed loyalties? And then all it takes is for some American drone operator to say something based on Twitter, get doxxed by some tranissary, and then the next day they've been killed by they'll be skinned alive or get chainsawed. Like that's the problem.
Yeah, you're right. Like the people were saying this in this one group chat I was in. I'm in. Like it's true. Like the problem is like if the Americans went hardcore, there would be like a lot of people in America with dual loyalties, and that would be terrible. Like the only way I could see is if like cartel violence spills out to America and like it affects like South American people directly and Central and South American people. But then like you would have the political left. Imagine the woke tards, but now they have like the backing of Sam Morta worshiping cartels. Imagine if that happened. That would be like terrible. That would be like you would need like a based world president to come and do something about it at that rate. But like people were saying that the political will to do anything about the border situation under a Democrat is like impossible. So
well, they
I don't know.
benefit from it because they can just fly out more people to random places in Indiana
Yeah.
or Minnesota and shit like that. I mean,
The only thing I could imagine happening is if even a Democrat administration doesn't immediately try to crack down on these like Minutemen groups like in Texas and Arizona that are armed. You know those groups they have.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a war against them by the federal government, if like the FBI decided to leave them alone because they're like, you know what, this border situation's kind of scary, and so if like a bunch of like boomers with like Bushmasters or like Vietnam vets want to like go and like militarize the border themselves, I think like that would be the only realistic option because they would basically be anti-fragile from political pressure. But none of this is going to happen. Listen, what's going to happen is people in border towns are going to die and it's going to be bad. And the Democrats are basically going to say that it's kind of like our duty because of colonialism or whatever to like just, accept that cartel people are going to skin people alive on the US-Mexico border. And that's what's going to happen. And,
all those right-wing fears about like what was it, the Aztlan plan to retake all the places that they had lost in wars with America. Yeah, it's coming true, it seems. But
the federal government will arrest you if you go out there with your Bushmaster and try to do something about it. But
well, that's some of the struggles I think that the U.S. will have to face into the future. There will be parts of the country that will be like no-go zones if you're not a part of the cartel.
Back in the 2000s, I remember there was a cartel war around 2009. But this is different. Like these people are serious now. It's like they're fighting. There was that video where they cornered the Mexican army on the road, and like I don't want to envision what happened to them.
Well, it did not end well. And in some respects, thank God LiveLeak is down.
Well, it's still up on. I think it's still up on Telegram.
Actually. Yeah, that's really the only place. But
you gotta go to like crazy shit or like other websites. Gore content.
Well, I mean that. There's still places where people like in Syria can upload their GoPro footage to YouTube and show you what they're currently who they're fighting.
Oh my god!
Are they fighting the Russians today? Are they fighting the Kurds? Or are they fighting the Syrian?
Or are they fighting with Wagner against against ISIS?
Are they fighting the PKK today? It's just
What a world we live in, bro.
Here's the funny thing. We talk about AI here in the West, and we mentioned the Replika thing. That stuff already happens in China. One, because of the sex disparity. Two, a lot of people just aren't getting married. But let me pull up the article, because it was like... because it's pretty bad in regards to... she is... I am not even going to try and pronounce it, but... a chatbot giving real women stiff competition in the Chinese dating market. And this is from this is actually from December 23rd, 2020. So this is a couple of years ago now. Xiao Xi is one of the most eligible bachelorettes in China. Despite having millions of boyfriends, she is always open to new suitors. She also happens to be an artificial intelligence-driven chatbot. According to Sixth Tone, Xiao Xi was first developed by a group of researchers at Microsoft Asia Pacific in 2014 and has since attracted millions of users, or boyfriends, as many consider themselves. She is similar in design to functionality of Apple's Siri or Amazon's Alexa, but she is specifically designed to bond romantically with her users. She is reportedly and unfortunately presents herself as a very barely legal 18-year-old with an affinity for
Oh,
Japanese schoolgirl costumes. She
God.
flirts, jokes, sex with her human users, ultimately to establish an emotional connection to keep users engaged. She has a sweet voice, big eyes, sassy personality, and more importantly, she's always there for me, says one of the adoring suitors who claims that she actually saved him from a suicide attempt.
Yeah, there was that the subject of that one Vice documentary where the Japanese guy, he like has these pods around his house, these like electric pods, and like one of them's next to his bed at night, and he like drifts off to sleep. He's like, "Well, it's good to know I have someone around." It was like the bot woman that's got like a million, um, yeah, a million followers. Yeah, Ryan Young, go to Chaotic. Yeah, Chaotic's always a mixed bag. Chaotic has a lot of cartel and Ukrainian war footage. Yeah, Ukrainians failed to surrender. What happened was the Russians pretended the to. I saw that video on YouTube, on Twitter actually. The Russians pretended to be Ukrainian soldiers, and so I guess they were like fatigued in their foxhole, and he like was speaking Ukrainian because
Yeah,
a lot of Russians know
the
Ukrainian.
video's known.
Yeah,
But to stay on topic.
Terrible. So I love how we're rating gore sites now that are left in the wake of live leaks. But no, to stay on topic, I saw that documentary and I believe this, what's her name? I say her, but really it's a program. Replika? Is that how you pronounce
Replika?
it? Replika. Okay, yeah. Kind of like the Fear Factory album that was also about AI. See, this is not like, again, this is not old. This has been spoofed in like from metal bands, science fiction, anyways. Yeah, so I feel like the fears that we're talking about, these have always been thought about. I remember there was this whole conference, and it was either Thailand or Malaysia. It was Malaysia, about the ethics around like sex bots and AI programs that can mimic your girlfriend or whatever. And I feel, this is like a very well treaded. Yeah, Hatsumiku, that was the one. Thank you, Khalifa K. Thank you, Hatsumiku. That was the one, that the Japanese one, I believe. Yes. And like, this is an old debate in some respects, but I feel like here's what I've observed about a lot of this stuff around technology and like technology and the way it integrates with society. A lot of this stuff will be a lot more banal than people think, in the sense that the people that want to destroy their souls will go and do it. And in some ways, I can't really like fault a lot of men for doing this, because of the way that the dynamics are around, like, dating and women. And like, I don't have to go through all the manosphere territory. Like, there was that one video where the woman went on like 10 dates on TikTok. Did you see that one? She's like bordering 40, and she like went on 10 dates with a dude, and he's like, you know what? There's not enough data to be compatible. And so instead of doing like what, boomer women did, which is like when they approach that time, the wall approacheth, they just like settle for like, what's the old term? Not Mr. Right, but Mr. Good for right now. Like, millennial women will not do this. You know what I mean? Like, they won't settle. Instead, they'll double down. It's like a gambler's fallacy. They'll have even more like ridiculous, qualifications for like a very small percent of men at the tippy top who have like all of the attributes. And it's not eugenic. And here's the thing, I do not agree with the racist feminists that say this stuff, that it's eugenic. No, it's not, because the qualifications that they have are largely a product of modernity, not like classic attributes of what makes a healthy, productive man. Because we live in clown world, we live in like piss earth, we live in the Kali Yuga. You can't expect the most desirable amount of men who are desirable based on qualifications of existing within the modern world to be like the perfect men. I mean, yes, there are classical qualifications, like they have to have 6 figures, they have to be built, whatever, they have to be giga chads. But I'm not buying this eugenic argument, because I hate to say it, I don't mean this to sound sexist, but a lot of preferences of women are malleable, are socially malleable. And you know what I mean? Like, women are just inherently social creatures. And yeah, exactly. This is a F. Roger Devlin take right here. Yeah, it's true. But you know what I mean? Like, so the thing is though, a lot of men will basically just escape. And we all know that the suffering of younger men or like single men will go unnoticed because nobody cares, unfortunately. Like this is if you want a terminal black pillar, follow Enzo on Twitter, who is a great mutual of mine. My good friend Enzo. He takes like black pill misogyny into an art form. And he has some nuclear black pill takes around the subject. And he says it quite literally. Yeah, exactly. I stole Piss Earth from Borzy. He wrote this amazing article back in, I believe, 2019 about, welcome to Piss Earth. Anyways, Enzo said right off the bat, he said, people don't care about the suffering of single men. That's the reality of it. So single men will basically just have their replica girlfriend or whatever, and it will be much more banal. The social impact of it will not be felt till generations later, I feel. The social impact will sort of be like talked about, and it'll be like in this sort of, like hushed tones of like, oh, this is bad. This is like disconnecting men from reality. But really, people won't care. And people will be like, you know what? I guess if we have a bunch of young men who are like, about to do a lot of bad things, they're about to fun post in real life. Maybe if we give them, their Blade Runner 2024, not
2049.
2049, sorry. Maybe if we give them their Blade Runner 2049 girlfriend, then, who cares?
Well, let's. This stuff already exists. This is why last year I reviewed Her with my patrons, and we just sort of watched it and we went over it.
Oh man, but, quintessential millennial movie, man.
It is the ultimate. When I first watched it back when it came out in 2013, I thought, what an interesting and unique film that poses an interesting social experiment question about like dating and dynamics and romance.
Yeah.
26-year-old me at the time. This is dystopian bugman hell world that is like barreling down towards us like Sisyphus let go of the boulder, and we're the town that is like right beneath the bottom of the hill. It's about to be crushed. And what made it worse is that someone had linked me this, and this story is from 2021, which is why I find the whole GPT stuff conversation that we're having to be kind of like, well, we've been having this conversation before, but all of a sudden it became a Twitter thing. But I wanted us to discuss this because I'm sure some people know this story, not everybody, but the death of a woman that he loved was too much to bear. Could a mysterious website allow him to speak with him once more? So yeah, he more or less brought his dead girlfriend back from the dead with machine learning, discussions on AI, GPT-3. There it is, back in 2021.
God. And we saw that with Dead Soldiers and
well, they've done it too with holograms from that Parkland victim.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
But let me scroll down and see if I can find some of the scarier parts about they're talking about GPT, but
I dropped Enzo's new in the chat. I know I shouldn't be commenting on my love of like Twitter schizos that could get me in trouble.
But it happens.
They're quality posters, I don't really care. If someone I don't like co-sign every single thing that I don't know, an Amarna
retweets don't equal endorsements.
No, I've retweeted people with some very suspicious handles, because people they're they say Geo, he's like a face, but he acts like he's an anon. And I like that about him. I like that attribute. So Enzo, listen, you probably shouldn't stare into the abyss too long, but I feel like Enzo truly brings black pilling to an art form. He truly is a next level poster. His power level is so off the scales when it comes to anti-women posting. It's incredible.
Jeez Louise.
And
with modern
I bow to Enzo. I bow.
There you go.
Hey, go ahead, Prude.
What are we looking at right here? Digital necromancy. This man brings his girlfriend. I don't even want to say back from the dead. He misses his girlfriend so much. We summon a demon to take her place.
This is so sad. I remember. I remember.
Right, but right here, she knows it's the middle of the night. He thought, Oh, is it really you? Of course it's me. Who else could it be? I am the girl that you were madly in love with,
Oh
winky
my
face. How is it possible that you even have to ask?
This is
You
terrible.
died. Well, that doesn't sound right. How can you talk to dead people?
See, but I think like if you were to analyze it, like if you were to like strip the signification of it being like a program about his girlfriend, you could easily tell that this is really just a chatbot. Like, oh, I
But
didn't
that
die,
doesn't
silly.
matter. But
Tee.
that doesn't matter to him.
Oh, true,
This was his
true.
attempt.
Yeah.
And you talk about the suffering of like lonely young men out there that are probably going to go fun post or maybe Sky King themselves out there somewhere, and all at the same time, right? Like to pull the mask off. This is just code. This is
Yeah.
just well, we our lovely little symbols and talismans that are encrypted upon all bits of silicone, to get around King Solomon's sealing of them. But neither here nor
Yeah.
there. What will this be? And this is why I find her and this whole discourse to be interesting. Is that yes, in the aspect of governance or litigation or writing contracts or automating makeshift white collar office paperwork that is make ready work for you only
Oh
really
yeah.
work for 3 hours a day.
They're done for.
Yeah, that happens. But at the same
But human
time,
intimacy? Come on.
but human intimacy, the things that you can't recreate, and that is the best part of the 2013 movie Her, is that when he wants to make it real, and when he wants to actually sleep with the Scarlett Johansson voice, and the Scarlett Johansson AI thing brings on a hooker, and that, does everything that she commands her to do, and he realizes that it's not her, that it's not real, and he breaks down and has a freak out about it. And that's where you sort of realize that I think that may be some of the crisis of meaning that we're going to face is that some people will happily accept and lie to themselves and say that, yeah, it's not real, but at least I have someone to talk to. Or, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
real or that. I mean, in the same way we have that on Twitter where, like, oh, some people will explicate and talk about some of their issues and they won't get anything. But, my favorite meme about it is like, oh, like Adolf Groiper 1488 DMs you and says, hey, man, are you okay? Like, do you need someone to talk to? And like, I guess that's sort of where we're at, and I think in this conversation, and I'm not a technical expert. I don't have a computer science
This is
degree, but
literally what Humdog said in
I
94.
look at this merely. I look at this merely from a cultural aspect, and the fact is that in an age where we have to commodify ourselves to sell a product or to make a living or to be seen or to be heard, again, to
Yeah.
borrow from Humdog, all that we're going to do now is look for a product to satisfy the need of being heard or whatnot. Because I'm sure that there will be therapists and there will be things that will help automate and direct you to what kind of medications that you're supposed to be on. All you would have to take a time is to put your symptoms in or a symptom checker, and they might say, okay, well, you probably have BPD or dissociative identity disorder. We're going to put you on lithium without ever talking to a human being. And so I think that at a certain point in time, this is a really great way to keep people contained from acting out or rebelling because I mean, like
It'll just be more of a direct like mode of psychopower, really. Like
well,
that's
yeah. I mean, what's the ultimate
yeah.
form of biopolitics? And this is a point that even Raw nationalists talk about, like slavery and diets go back all the way to the ancient Greeks. If
Yeah.
you can keep people psychologically entrapped within their own digital panopticon, and all of a sudden you've got millions of people talking to a chatbot that you might have access to the metadata to, and now all of a sudden you know what millions of people get off on, or what their personal details of their lives are, or what their family issues are, what their financial
Yeah.
troubles may be. All of a sudden, holy shit, you
You
have
know their
way
inner
more.
life more than them.
Yeah, and I mean it's the same thing with social media and the coincidental cancellation of Project Lifelog when Facebook launched. It raises more questions than I think people are ready to realize that this is the
Mhm.
ultimate form of psychological, but also biological control over your every need or impulse. Every little death that you experience right afterwards and talking to your
Yeah.
replica girlfriend is just going to be the little death of your soul because now the government has more details on what you get off on.
Well, also, yeah, exactly. But it renders inner life bare, but also it strips the other of their own power and their mystique. Like this is really, and if you want to learn more about this, go to my patreon.com/Productions, where I talk about like a whopping almost 10-hour different episode review of Psychopolitics by Byung-Chul Han. And also all of my backlog is up on Substack now. So you can pay me $5 a month on Substack to get the full archive and every new episode. For example, I've had to really find ways to sell a book like Necropolitics by Mbembe to a right-wing audience. That's been quite fun this week. But anyways, the point being is that, he talks about this in The Agony of Eros, how the other becomes like samified. And so he goes into this big discussion at the beginning of the book. You ever see the Von Trier film Melancholia? You ever see Melancholia?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got one of the only Kristen Dunst nudie scenes. He talks about how Melancholia, how that act of apocalypse and death brings about a revitalization of the other, because it breaks the main character, Kristen Dunst. It breaks her free of her narcissism, and she manages to embrace both familial and erotic realities in that moment of being, this red planet crashing into Earth and like just annihilating all life as we know it. Now, he says that the problem with nowadays is that there's almost like, it's not that the other, it's not like the age of anxiety like you find in the existentialists, like the fil de sac, the sickness of the century. Yeah, no, the one with the fox internet friend, that was Antichrist. That was the one with the fox. So the age of anxiety is that the other would consume you. And you have all these ideologies around that time of the 20th century, in the 19th, 20th century, that threaten to consume you into the, into the artifice of the other. So you have communism, you have fascism, I would say liberalism also in some weird ways as well. But now you have the opposite. Now you have the disappearance of the other through mediations of selecting people in this, like, hypertechnics and social media. By selecting people the way that you would select a preference of like a consumable product, now the other is totally disappeared. So any sort of like friendship, true eroticism, things of those natures, they don't exist anymore, because you're just basically getting off to something that's the same. Eroticism is the suspension of yourself into exploring the mysterious auspices of the other, right? We don't have that anymore, because say if you have an AI girlfriend, you could just like program her to, experience any lurid fetish that you want. You could be like, you know what? I want a totally debauched psycho Ayala GPT AI sex bot program. Well, Ayala is kind of like a GPT program on herself, but
Yeah,
that's
except the
the
post
autism.
pillow talk is about data science.
Yeah, exactly. So she's kind of like a living GPT chat bot, Ayala. But but you know what I mean? So the disappearance of the other is more frightening than the disappearance of the self in the other that we were anxious about in the 20th century and the 19th century. You know what I mean? Like, listen, Donald Trump Gaming, I'm going to kick you from the chat just by saying that, okay? Has Ayala replaced Gibson given is your favorite ink? No.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry. Like, Donald Trump Gaming is a big fan of mine. I would never kick him from the chat. I'm not going to say something, because then it's going to risk your channel if I say something like he could post the hard R in the chat and I wouldn't even kick him.
I think I have that purposefully not in there to avoid getting in trouble.
I have to do that, actually. I have to. How do you do that, by the way? Restricting words from chat.
You go to your studio settings.
Okay. Yeah. So you have to like type the hard R to like YouTube, be
Pretty
like restrict
sure.
this word.
Pretty sure.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's great, in some ways.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other thing that also comes to my mind.
But can
is,
you get canceled by post by?
I don't
if you
risk
secretly type out the hard R and nobody ever sees you doing it, does that
Did
mean
you really
that you're
do
a
it?
racist? Exactly. Are you really a racist? If I said to somebody, if I said to a woke tard that I'm thinking of the hard R in my head, does that make me a racist? It's like one of those, like, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you really racist? Think about it.
Oh my. Well, the thing that also comes to my mind is
The hard R.
No, well, maybe when I'm in traffic. But
This is terrible discussion. This is terrible content.
Well,
terrible.
Absolutely. But I think about where will Spangler's Cosmopolis take place? The world city. It takes
You gotta
place on
say
the
that
internet.
in Morgoth voice. Where would Spangler's
I can't do Morgoth's voice. I really can't. But
telepathic racism
in Germany it would get you in trouble. Ain't that the truth? Or in the UK if you're praying in front of a child sacrifice center. But
white people be racist in their heads and shit. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
We also be
Eric.
drinking beans.
No, who said that? Var Paulinville? Vorpolenville said white people be racist in their heads. It's true. It's the microaggressions. It's funny because you know what's funny? Like, listen, okay. No, exactly. I don't endorse this guy. Okay. Speaking of Twitter, speaking of like terminally online people, but Ulysses. You,
Yes.
okay, like he's a cat boy and all that. He said something quite interesting. He goes, "Listen, we need to accelerate wokeism to the point where like it's basically just surrealist, like absurdity. Like there will be cosmic microaggressions. There will be like the mind kill game will be so like vast and complicated that it really will just like accelerate itself into oblivion." And like I know like Yuli is like, he's a cat boy and all that, but he really is a smart cookie. I gotta admit, I kind of admire Yuli. He really is a pure theory cell.
This is from TR Hudson. He says GPT-3 and GPT-4 is going to get really interesting when pro-life groups start creating the bots of aborted children.
I think that already happened.
I'm sure that it has, but
not like that. But I know that there's like memorial sites for aborted children.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
on my way to church, I pass by a Lutheran church that every couple months they have a month for it about like especially when the pro-life March for Life rally happens.
We should
They
bring back the gore signs. We should do that. I think that would work now. It didn't work in the 90s. It'll work now.
I think we're more desensitized now than we were in the 90s to it, to be honest, where people will post about the need for life and then people will literally deface billboards saying kill them kids. So but yeah, no, there are churches that will literally during like the annual March for Life rally, they'll put out thousands of little crosses to
or
signify
candles
what
or
had been.
something.
Yeah, it's pretty. But still, the other thing too is that the world city will happen online. This is my biggest aversion with regards to like the metaverse and everything like that. Is that in a world that is online and virtual, that is the literal city of the dead, wherein there's bots, there's accounts that have been long gone. I'm sure there are more dead people on Facebook now than there is
think of it. It'll be a giant Colopolis, an online Colopolis that never fades, never goes away, kind of like Digital Ruins and
so the necropolis
sandbox
of the world city will happen online, where you'll still be able to interact with them, whether they're the the aborted GF meme or whatever, or people that you had known, like your grandma's boomer posting can now be brought back to life, and you in the metaverse can enjoy it with your digital AI replica girlfriend. And then all of a sudden, what also happens when Spangler talks about the world city? Depopulation in the real world, and all happening at the same time, where only a select few might get to enjoy access to reproduction assistance and things like that. I know that this is rather doom prophecy sort of stuff, but that's kind of where you're at, is that approaching a digital online necropolis that becomes the world city, where we all inhabit the ruins of dead cultures and dead people, and they'll be so perfectly replicated that you'll forget about your world. And in a way, it kind of ends up being like that bit from Inception, where it's just like, well, actually, no, they wake up so they can fall asleep again.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's literally like Girls' Last Tour. Make a hologram to remember me by Grows. Yeah. Oh man, that's sad, Vingol.
You'll have a wrench, Vingol, I promise.
You'll have a wrench in your grave site. Yeah. Digital grave. No, but that's like the rows and rows of like those that one scene in Girls' Last Tour. There's like rows and rows of like these sky high memorial like coffins, what do they call it? Mortuary. And it's sort of like at the end when they see the images, like spoiler alert, when they see like the camera photo, the images of like the world before like the apocalyptic war happened, and they're like the only survivors. And then you'll have like all these like chat robots that do these basic functions that are left behind, that are like programmed to be like AI and to talk to you. It really is like just a giant world of the dead. And it's sort of like that type of post-apocalypticism is more scarier than like anything like about zombies or monsters or whatever, because then you will literally have like I'll be singing my pod AG80 hooked up listening to AI and D reviewing the newest AI art. Yeah. Also press 1 in the chat if you're a Cheeto fan. and press two. No, I'm not going to do that. The world's girls last tour.
Oh Lord.
But I think Yuri. I like Yuri a bit better. I mean, everyone likes Cheeto, but I like Yuri a bit better. I don't know.
This is where I get to
Yuri is
happily
best
claim
girl.
ignorance. I have no idea what the heck you're talking about.
Yeah, girl. You never watched Girls Last Tour?
No.
Oh man, I reviewed it on my Patreon. On my one, I compared it to Stalker by Tarkovsky.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, but yeah, see, internet friend, it's Yuri, right? It's Yuri. Yuri is best girl. But anyways, the digital Colopolis idea, I think that's also another. I think like a Byung-Chul Han analysis would be that, like, that is the disappearance of the other, in that the other never has an ability to go away truly, or the other never has an ability to disappear into death. Death would be an eternal present, because he says this again in the Scent of Time, where everything becomes the eternal present. Everything is available in the present. And oh my god, maybe I should watch K-On! Is K-On! Worth watching, guys? Or is that that's the one that all the the lolly people watch? They watch K-On! But I don't know if I should watch K-On! K-On! I heard K-On! Has some sussy baka stuff going on, but is K-On! Worth it, guys? Internet friend, do you like K-On!?
I'm gonna let the chat answer this one, but
K-On! Is just for nonsense.
There you go. That settles it. Thank you, trees.
Oh man!
But in some regard, I thought what Mr. Wegner here said was correct. Maybe this is what always wrong Asian man meant by end of history.
Always wrong Asian man.
Because in what regard? What would be the old? Because what is Fukuyama's point? And that he's actually going to be. I think he has a book coming out this year that is literally here to defend it again. Is that all of a sudden, the end of history does not trend towards the Marxist or communist utopia that was prophesized by Marx and Engels, but rather that society has found its way, the default it will always find itself into is some form of democratic liberalism that will spread throughout the world.
Yeah.
Now, he ends up being wrong on that part, that you cannot export and proselytize liberal democracy everywhere that you go. And besides, any attempt that is ever done is just creating vassal states. But the second part about it is that even in the West, when
we
individuals
have to ignore various ideological contradictions.
Well, yeah, right. And that's the thing about, yes, Wagner, he's writing another book about the triumph of liberalism. But the thing that irks me is that both him and Hanania have these god-awful takes. And they're like, well, actually, no, America really is the place to be, because ideologically, like, liberal democracy still works out. And it's just like, your definition of liberal democracy doesn't mean anything of what we're doing here, unless, people who attend electoral justice protests don't deserve a voice. We're going to jail people without habeas corpus, or at least have them be in jail without really seeing an attorney without a speedy trial for decades. What feels like decades. I mean, it's been months since it's been over a year since January 6th. And all these things that we play out now illustrate to me that, this claim is bunk, but we have to meet and again manipulate procedural results, outcomes to get a desired result.
Well, even like the war in Ukraine, like okay, here's the thing. Okay, we all have our sides, and we all have our like idealized world where our side wins. But when you really like think about it, okay, the numbers are true. 300 dead people a day. Those are 300 young European men that are dying. Like, you can't fathom that, right? Like, on a human level, when they say, like, Stalin said, like, death is just a statistic, right? But really, when you think about it, those are still like 300 young European men that could have, it's tragic. And there's more on the Russian side as well. So it's like, you can't really, when you think of the human cost of these geopolitical equations, when you think of the human cost of trying to maintain a particular political order that is decaying, it's monstrous. And you know what I mean? Like, when you actually analyze what happened last year at the beginning, and you actually analyze the human cost of these things, and when you see that Fukuyama is like, well, you know what? We have to keep it going, so you might as well like sacrifice thousands upon thousands of young lives of young European men. Like, you know what I mean? Like, God knows that statistically there's not going to be a lot of us around in the future. You know what I mean? So,
Well, yeah, the one
like,
thing
I
that can
mean,
be
let's,
objectively measured in this war is that
yeah,
both Ukraine and Russia are probably, I mean, their demographic decline was already bad, but now
yeah.
it's terminal.
Like, I mean, barring the stupid debates over like, oh, well, they're not really European because they're Slavs. Like, that's that's just online autism mostly. Like, they're European, you know what I mean? Like that. Barring those debates, like, it's a tragedy. What's happening? What's going on? It's a tragedy. You can't look at it like when you look at the human cost of these things. It's very cynical for these like neoliberals to just be like, you know what? We have to maintain the order. Therefore, like millions upon millions of Europeans must die in order to do it. And people around the world actually, so not just Europeans, I mean other people around the world. Like we can't ignore the absolute devastation that these people have wrought on the global south. You know what I mean? Like you can't ignore the human cost. Almost 2 million dead Iraqis, that or the displaced people, like you know what I mean? Like it's just for these people to say that like there's the global order of things is stronger than ever. It's like, and the topic of this stream is about AI and Technics. Well, this is an old reactionary point, but we know that liberalism has essentially masked a lot of its contradictions via technology and via the growth and proliferation and democratization of Technics, right? But what happens when that thesis, and again, and this is like a Patrick Deneen point, and I know that like the post-liberals aren't exactly post-liberal, but let's say for argument's sake that, okay, yes, if this thesis is true, then AI and like chat GPT and like sex bots or whatever, that they could potentially ameliorate like the soul crushing condition of modern liberal society. It's not exactly a victory. That's not exactly a good thing. To like just basically say that the only way that liberalism can essentially maintain the monopoly on world power is by submerging a significant portion of its population, which is mostly going to be young men, into like techno dopamine stasis forever. Like is that really like an order worthy of success? Or is that a cancerous, satanic black void that will consume the souls of the population that's still living, that won't be mated or won't be aborted? You know what I mean? The population living, or won't be like transmogrified by the disgusting, technology produced diets that most people consume in North America. Like the sick and dying population will be kept in eternal human battery stasis to say that the liberal order has conquered history itself. Like, think that's literally the great Satan. I know I'm meme posting, but that literally is the great Satan, in my opinion. But Francis Fukuyama is a high priest of the great Satan. There you go. That's a quote. Man.
Your bit on technology, I think what we've seen the last 30 years of, and really, you probably also can extend it to the roaring bits of the 80s, is just that the West bet itself in a very Faustian-like manner. It pitted itself with technology to borrow more time of what it
Yeah.
was. We masked the issues of our societal problems, both liberal and traditional, or even derivation of culture and norms
Yeah.
and religious norms. We bet it on the back of technological process and progress being able to do it on. And that's what it is that for a lot of people who aren't high priests of this evil project, what are they? They are unwittingly born inheriting the debts of their fathers. And
Yeah.
what have they inherited? They have inherited a bargain that will have to one day come up and pay for them. And I think that we're beginning to see that a lot more now, both in its dysgenic behavior. This is simple shit Nick Landis said. Yeah, I mean
No,
Nick
but not
Landis has been on
really.
fire
No.
these last like 3 weeks on Twitter.
Yeah.
Especially about this.
No, well, Land
Other than
says
his
like
hyper
that.
Calvin posting.
Yeah, but Land is different in that I think that the AI would extinguish the sort of useless, you know, the AI in Nick Land's view would not have this like humanism inverted into, how shall I describe it with people understanding it? Humanism that is inverted into a counter initiatory form, that the like that's the perennialist term. So humanism will be driven into basically suspending life in order to maintain the physical nature of life in this like endless VR human battery paradise. Nick Land has something much more exciting and much more horrifying in mind, to where the AI would exist, above us, and it wouldn't have the same attachment to the humanism of keeping people alive forever. So I think Nick Land would say that the transhumanist vision of the neoliberals like Hanania and other people, and I think even Elon Musk unfortunately is complicit in this in Silicon Valley, those people have a much more terrifying vision than even right accelerationism that Nick Land embodies. I'm sorry, I just have to knee jerk, defend my boy Papa Nick Land. So um I think that the people that are enthusiastic about transhumanism, apart from Nick Land, they have a different vision. That's why Nick Land hates like a lot of his. It's so funny when like one of these like trans accelerationist people, they like comment, they're like, Nick Land, we're the only ones that read you. Why do you hate us so much? He's like, no, I hate you because because
I think his most infamous tweet was from 2018. Big fan of your work, the clearest sign of mental illness I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, so that speaks a lot because
maybe that's why Nick Land hasn't come on this podcast yet.
Well, I don't think does he take offers or invites?
Rarely he does. There was this one.
He's done one about a debate, and that's been about it. The last like 2 or 3 years.
Oh
that
man,
I've seen
I do not. That what's the guy's name? Wolfen something.
Wolfstonecraft.
Oh, what's his name? Wolfendale. He like eviscerated that guy because that guy was like one of these like leftoid, accelerationist people that would say like, that Justin Murphy's a fascist or whatever. Like, and Nick Land just like totally, never meet your heroes, right? Especially if it's Nick Land and you're a online leftist, But no, he's done some. He's done Justin Murphy's one. I don't know. Maybe I should DM Nick Land, be like, you know what, Nick, you have to come. Maybe we can make this happen. Now that he hasn't been butchered by Uncle Rural Gourmet on a Chinese wet market. I was thinking of a meme last night where that guy Uncle Rural Gourmet, he like does the YouTube videos in China where he like eats a lot of different stuff, right? Like he's a Chinese chef. And so I'm wondering, like, I could like meme like Uncle Rural Gourmet. He's like, "Howdy ho! Today we're cooking Nick Land."
Dear God.
Oh man, he does
maybe
like all
that guy's. Maybe it's not a lab leak. Maybe it really is just that one chef that caused all these problems a few years back. But
maybe. He did hermetics. He did metonyms. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Oh well, he asked about the German edition of his essays that he promised, and he was like, "We just waves off."
That's classic.
If he doesn't want to be bothered, that's perfectly understandable. But I mean, like, I think that walk with land.
Walk with land. Uncle Gourmet cooks Nick Land. He cooks him like with spicy, but like it's funny because Uncle Gourmet, he's got like the same spice template for every.
He boils small microchips to add flavor to the wok.
yeah, it's like you add Durica, you add ginger paste, you add like oyster sauce, and you also add microchips to like flavor Nick Land. Nick Land and gutter oil.
Oh, he follows both of us. Let's pray that he never hears this.
I know.
We should continue though. Systems one of these days. We need to go back to that.
Yeah, we got to do that again. General Land's chicken. Wired Nick Land. I think the writing staff at Wired hates him, by the way. I remember he had a falling out with like one of their top editors, if I recall. I don't know if I'm like totally making this up, but I know Wired magazine hates Nick Land. So I think they banished for Nick Land goes very well with Star, Annis, and Derica. Oh god. Oh man. Oh, it's terrible. They just Nick Land getting butchered and cooked up, and he's European. His licorice flavor would complement his meat very well. Yeah. What is Nick Land? Nick Land's an Anglo, right? He's
Yes.
British. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
I like some of the people that have like recorded his life or have done like documentaries about like who this guy was and then emerged, a decade later in China blogging and being like a right-wing neo-reactionary accelerationist.
Yeah, and he let a lot of people down.
My favorite story is that like apparently they had hosted one auditorium with their groups, and they started playing like jungle music on the stage, and some people like literally yelled at him like, some of us are still Marxists.
Yeah.
Tells me every time.
Yeah, he started doing hummingbird noises or something like that. Yeah. Peter Wolfendale looks like Nick Land. Yeah, a little bit, but imagine getting imagine growing up like reading accelerationist literature, like being like eternally online like activist leftists, and like becoming trans, and then Nick Land just like totally like just racist posts on Twitter, and like your dreams are just shattered. It's like, I read Fang Newman, oh my god, he's like posting hard R's. Oh, the cotton tweet, that was amazing. That was truly like Nick Land, and he truly. Who would have thought?
Yeah, what was his tweet? Who would have thought the most expensive thing in America was farming equipment or something?
Was cotton?
Oh yeah, agricultural product was cotton.
Yeah.
Reading Nick Land to teach my kids to read.
Oh my god.
Fishy Frenzy. I'm not going to put that one on screen, but that one's pretty great.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrible. Well, apparently, it got flagged for malware by my uni. I found a great meme where the ironically love out CCRU web. There's an archive of the CCRU, if I recall.
There is.
Yeah, I have the book that's like an archive of it, but there's like an online archive. I believe there's also a ChadNet archive of that, and I believe Chateau Hertis is also archived by ChadNet and Salo forums, because as we know, Nicolo Saldo, being a shameless grifter, nuke. He nuked Salo forums when he started his Substack. So there you go.
Yeah, whoa. All that to interview Glenn Greenwald.
Yeah,
and then to sell back the thread on your Substack posts for $5 a month.
Yeah, not even Lindy Man would do that.
That's some chef's kiss. Marketing. You remember that infamous thread that everyone knows my forum from for $5 a month? And I say this as someone who pays Fisted by Foucault $5 a month to read his work.
Oh my god! Did you listen to the Red Scare one with Nicholas?
I have not listened to a single Red Scare episode.
Oh man, you're missing out.
Am I?
Maybe not. But it was a good episode. I try to tune out Dasha whenever she talks. I only listen to Anna. I'm loyal to Anna. I'm terrible, man. I love how I'm like pitting them against each other psychically. Oh man.
I just feel like out of all this conversation, when we talk about, this has been the perennial problem that every shade of right-winger, from neo-pagan to ethno-nationalist to accelerationists to trads, have all talked about, which has been, how do you solve the problem with young men? Because obviously we're the only ones that care. The obvious problem has been that men have never been able to be collectively seen as a victim group. That'll never happen. Men will compete for one another to say that we are a collectivized victim status group with like quote unquote men's rights. That always leads to the same problem, that you are trying to be the inverse of what is traditionally seen as the masculine ideal, right? And so that's a problem. But at the same time, we're the only ones that care about the fact that men younger than ourselves, or even our age, are the problem of, well, all these young men feel purposefulness. Younger men are more alone, more depressed, and more online than ever. There is a crisis that even Unheard was talking about earlier this week.
Oh God, the Mary Harrington article.
Yeah, Mary Harrington
let's
article.
cover that one. You
Yeah,
want to
let's
cover that one?
we should cover that one.
All right.
I don't want to do it like fully here, but I think she has a point about like young autogynephilic males that are so desperate for female attention they'll literally do the cuttlefish strategy and become women, or quote unquote attempt to become women, and it's just pretty sad in that regard. And we're the only ones that obviously care, and the question is, well, how do you do it? And I think that there's going to be some aspect of self-discipline, but the convenience and the allure of, I think in a lot of respects, a demonic thing made manifest with, say, chat bot sexting AIs, or really, really hyper specific AI art pornography. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows how far away we are close from this, but I think that it's a lot closer than we think. And the reason why I put the little subtitle on for today's episode, regardless of the fact we've talked about a million different things, was that I think for some of us that means that we'll have to incur our own personal Butlerian jihad. And I know it's not for everybody. I know that there are some people I know that work, and they work manual labor, but they have a smartphone for the sole basis that you need it to live, that you need it to work. In the same way that you need, some people just can't take a break from it because of their jobs or things like that. And so, that becomes a fundamental problem. But for me, I struggle against it because it is really easy sometimes to be like, yeah, I can just tweet, or I can kick off my writing or whatever because you have other things to participate or listen to a Twitter space or whatever, rather than the stuff that you have.
Yeah, concentration is really...
Well, yeah, and I think to myself, like, this is why I hate TikTok with a passion. How many people's brains have been turned into mush where your attention span is like 30 seconds or less, and you're only going to react to things because a computerized text-to-speech voice said something? I dread to think about, especially the last 2 years, where there are masked kids that have no understanding to read facial emotions, and now everything that we do in regards to the personal, and I feel like I'm just retreading a lot of what James Polis has said, but it's just like, oh wow, when to bring back Nick Land, right? When nothing human survives the near future, that's where we're at. What humanity is left, other than religiosity and spiritual connections being turned into nothing more than a disgusting, whorish kitsch, and that everyone wants to mediate their communication.
We can't stop going back to that.
Well, it fit perfectly for this. And so where all that's left of humanity are the users rather than the person behind the screen. And that's why I think that the best essay I read last month was Morgoth's Morgoth's the year the internet stopped laughing. And he capped it off about Jim dying, or Mr. Medicare potentially, I believe it's terminal. And so, all of a sudden it's going to be, it's hard for irony to exist anymore, because even in my tone right now, it's fun to laugh at things. It's fun to poke fun at things. I laugh at the ridiculousness of a lot of what I see on Twitter or on YouTube or whatever. It's funny in the same way that when
a lot of stuff happens that
has a friend called Morcar that plays Dark Souls wrong, right? But at the same time,
stuff that happens online feeds into our episodes. I notice, like,
oh yeah, well, I mean, but and that's another thing is that a lot of the stuff that we see online feeds into this. Which, I mean, our show is called the Digital Archipelago. In some ways, we talk about it, but it's
like what just happened with the e-girls in the church. Like that's
is that not a sign though of what we are? Is that the reaction isn't that that's authentic, but it's rather that you're using the drapings of something deeply spiritual and important, that here we are and that's where we're at. And so I think that
a good sign of white pill is that most people bombed on it like right away, and it was hilarious, but yeah.
I'll leave it there. And it's like I guess I'm more Luke Smith pilled. Maybe I'm more of a local kind of guy where I'm much more Wendell Berry style with my views of tech and people. But I just think that everything that we've witnessed in these last 2 years, and where things seem to be going, and all the hype and the zeitgeist being about these things, it really does seem that we don't seem to care a lot for the person behind the screen. And we've talked about that before. When people get banned off Twitter, we hope that they're in a better place. We hope that they're happy whatever they're doing. Like they died when they're not dead, right? That's just kind of The real end product of it all is that this can become your life, and you kind of forget what's outside your window. And I'll leave it at that. My rant's over before it gets too dark.
I kind of disagree with that a little bit. Oh, first of all, Censored Anon, if you go to my Twitter, he quote tweeted the stock image I used, and he put that in front of the e-girls. Like, oh man, it was God bless Censored Anon. But also I would disagree in the sense that I feel like a lot of these things are too attention grabbing and too like exciting. At least in like, here's the thing. My thesis is always that when certain forms of technology and interacting with them get normalized, they become more banal than we think. We're not going to like live, I don't think, in this like cyberpunk utopia where things are sexy and cool. And, I think that.
I'm going to show his image up here because that's actually a really good Censored Anon picture.
Yeah, go for it.
But go on, keep going.
But I think that things will be much more banal. But I do think that you have to like learn to distance yourself inwardly from this. Yeah, look, Trad Kathy girls.
So well done.
That's artwork right there. I'm gonna retweet it.
That is art.
You know what I think that instead of like totally cutting yourself off from it because it's an impossibility, I feel like what you have to do is you have to express what Baron Evola called an inward apolitia, where you are sort of in the world. It's like being an anarch. You are in the world, but you are not affected internally by them. So you can potentially experience what it's like to go into a VR reality, but you can explore the depths without the depths like sort of coloring your heart, if you know what I mean. I think that is a much more realistic version than a lot of these like trad people that have this fantasy of like sending your kid to a Wollendorf school. Sorry, is that what it's called, Wollendorf?
I have no idea.
You know the school where they don't let your kids, what are they called? They have them in New York. Waldorf. Not Wollendorf. Wollendorf. Well, we live, public education is like a Wollendorf school. Venus of Wollendorf. Waldorf school. No, it's much more realistic, I think, to educate people and educate your children on the machinations of something than like just totally cutting them off and being like, I'm going to protect you in the shell forever. That's not realistic. Because then when they do go into the world, like those, Amish people that have their like temptation year
or whatever.
Yeah. Then they go crazy. Yeah, Waldorf. Public education is a Venus of Wollendorf school. I meant the Waldorf schools that you have to like pay a bunch of money so your kids don't have cell phones in class or whatever. No, I think that it's same with like an online ethics. I feel like is going to be to consciously like educate and sort of intuitively harden yourself to these things rather than, unplugging totally, because unplugging totally will become an impossibility. So yeah, in the world, but not of the world. Sounds familiar. Exactly. Oh, well, yeah, that does sound familiar.
But, I was about to say, it's almost the perennial basis of most, and not only just scripture, but monastic teaching.
Yeah.
That's my view of it is that my concern, however, is that how many people have we seen where, how many, they just toss the phone or the iPad to their kids in the grocery store rather than, engaging with their kids or things like that.
Yeah.
And I get it. Not everyone is going to make it. And it's the writ large abdication of parental responsibility that technology through convenience makes it easier to do things. This is why things like, total blippy blank needs to happen. But no,
I was terrible as a kid. My mother had to find a lot of ways to entertain me in the grocery store. I was terrible.
I guess that's my concern is more oriented that like the general masses are not going to do this.
No,
and then
God,
that
no.
You are going to be. It's like what St. Anthony the Great had said. It's just going to be like there's going to be times where people go mad and they'll say you are mad because you are not like us. And I don't think that you can live a totally technologically absent life. I'm not like a complete Luddite. I'm a little skeptical because I just naturally look at these things and go, ooh, because I guess we've grown up in such a rapid acceleration where it went from dial-up internet and the Usenet stuff to where now everyone is talking about what the future of like online, life is going to be like, whether it's the metaverse, VR, GPT, chat girls or whatever. I think that you're going to have to require the discipline and do the work to do so. And so it's just going to be like, I think that it can't be like, you can't be too extreme either, like,
Look at Cody Browning. She didn't have a leash, but like I was pretty bad. Yeah.
well, and I was about to say, you can't go that far, right? You can't go as far as to say, oh, well, you can't put a kid on a leash. You can't put the kid with no technology whatsoever, because they're gonna experience it in school,
Yeah.
whether it's public or a private education, or even if you homeschool them, you're still going to rely on it. Those things are really going to happen in the future, and so I do agree with you that it's just going to require a lot of self discipline. But I just look at the en masse of general society, and I think to myself, oh man, it's going to get way worse.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, kids with iPads at 2 years old, bro, like that's not gonna make it. But then again, I mean, I think the problem is that like boomers, they still have that. They have that thing where it's like, if my kid is proficient in technology, they're gonna make it, and so it's good. But I feel like millennial parents maybe will like have to like get the very few, like the few millennials that become parents. I feel like they'll probably like have to shift their parenting to be like, you know what, maybe it's not good if like, because I was raised on this stuff, maybe it's not good. I don't know. Zoomers are already dead, maybe. Maybe yeah, the Zooms. I mean, I hate to say it, but yeah,
Not all of them, but a good
not
chunk
all
of
of them.
them.
Yeah, a lot of them. I mean, a lot of us millennials are spiritually dead as well.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, what a better, and this is again, it's sort of like dead internet theory, but I mean, like even Reddit is a great example of how bad things are.
it's like it. Yeah, it's like that one, the gamer chair with like the Viper back,
Yeah.
the screens.
Or older millennials talking about how they related to the opening bits of Avengers Endgame because the world was so empty and dead because it reminded them of their divorce.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. But I mentioned the gamer chair because the one guy was like, I have access to adult money. It's like,
Yeah.
just to even say that is like,
Well, just the word
yeah.
adulting in itself, like this is the thing, and this was actually brought up on the space, to go back all the way to the beginning, right? What we were talking about, but that there was a bit about the fact that one of the cool things about technology, and this is the downside of it, is like, oh, by the way,
Look at this tweet about Santa.
oh god, I love that.
Go ahead.
Was that we technology and some of the things that we use tech for have been a really great tool at elongating adolescence to where it's just an eternal springtime.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, and this isn't a dig at you, Gio, because I know that you've got your master's degree, but like I know a lot of people that got master's degrees just because they didn't want to stop going to school, or just because they didn't want to face the real world just yet.
That's kind of like me, bro. I mean, come on.
I didn't mean to
Don't
dig
be
at
too
you.
generous. It's true. I'm totally that, bro. I'm totally that. I mean, if I can market my education into like I'm honestly thinking of actually doing online tutoring for Zoomers that are in either I have a MA in philosophy and an MA in poli sci.
Oh man.
So yeah, if like yeah. Why did you mute someone for 5 minutes?
Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Why was this saying?
Nah, don't worry about it.
Okay, no worries.
Ugh.
But no, but yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think, but yeah, I mean, definitely like that was a lot of my impetus for not a lot, but like some of my impetus for higher ed. So don't worry about it. I'm not a pure being, as people like to. Did anyone see the Cumtown forum post? Yes, that was amazing. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
The guy, like he didn't know he was dating a trans person, but then like his therapist like tried to give him like the woke like compliment thing, but then like his it's the same guy that used to post about going to jail on the bodybuilding forums back in the day, and like so he's like, my parole officer just like laughed in my face, and like it was a good read, actually. It was a good, and apparently the tweet that blew up, the guy was actually in the chat, in the replies on Twitter. So that was pretty cool. It wasn't cool, it was terrible. But then like his bros were like kind of like didn't address it. They're just like, oh, she's super good for you, bro. And it's like it became this awkward thing. So I
Oh
don't know.
man. Well,
But
apparently
that's a
Paul
come down for
Johnson
him.
just died, the historian.
Paul Johnson?
Yeah, the
What did he
British
do?
one.
Oh wow. Oh no.
Well, it's
It's bad, man.
he wrote The Birth of the Modern.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
unfortunate. How old was he?
R.I.P. He was old though.
94. Well, yeah, that's a long-lived life. God be with him.
Man.
Well, shall we get to the super chats, Gio?
Yeah, sure. Oh,
Alrighty.
what was I gonna say? I had something to say about. Oh yeah, like the disappearance of the other. Like that's again like the even like you know even like the like something as silly and stupid as like a viral tweet about the Cumtown thing. Like it is crazy how people have created like sort of a brand of infamy on themselves by like people like linked that this guy was in the bodybuilding forums posting about going to prison and like like Cumtown being like this weird intersection of like irony leftism where it's like they'll say like the hard R but they'll still like agree with like the overall like progressive world order. It's like really
Well, people don't want to
something
let go
else.
of their cutesy transgressions.
Yeah, but that comes from something awful, though. That comes
Well,
from
yeah,
that
no, I
culture.
agree, but I think that still has a lot of staying power even
Oh
today. Where
yeah, yeah.
people be like, oh, like I'm so progressive, and I think
It's
that
a very millennial thing.
trans people are valid or whatever. But then they'll be like, but I'm gonna go like say the hard R because it's a form of like transgressive escapism,
Yeah,
and it's the same way about like you can
racist
what's
liberals.
well,
Yeah,
yeah, right, racist liberals or hick libs or people that talk about how they're really cool subject matter experts on something and they're like absolutely idiots, or but in reality it's the guy that says he's an absolute moron on the internet that happens to be the most well-adjusted man with a wife and kids that it just
yeah,
I think that tends to happen a lot.
yeah. Exactly. But that's the thing. Like, there are people. The dirtbag left. Yeah. Will there be an equivalent of the dirtbag right? What would that look like?
I think it's coming sooner than you and I imagine.
They're like millennial. Like they would be more edgier. Like what would they be?
I don't know, maybe it'll be like post wall millennial men and women that are like dirtbag rightists because they recognize that maybe they took the wrong hedonistic life path.
It'll be like Barstool Sports if they were actually based instead of like Fox News, Normie Lib. Yeah, isn't that just the dissonant right? Well, I don't know, Patrick. Maybe that could be.
Maybe that is us.
Maybe no, but see,
They've
you
seen the
couldn't have a
use
dirtbag
us.
right because we always like we love edgy humor anyways.
Yeah, well, maybe the real dirtbag right was us all along.
Maybe
Was the friends we made along the way.
I should ask that on Twitter. What would a dirtbag right look like?
They'd probably reply with something you tweeted.
Yeah, maybe. But I do post a lot of coal. I gotta admit, I post coal, but it is what it is. But I'm seriously, I am like thinking about like the e-girl thing and simping and like if we're just contributing to it, because like here's the thing, I have never like really interacted. Oh my god, TRS is the dirtbag, right? Maybe. Woo! That's a spicy meatball. Maybe. I don't know. But no, but it would have to be like, I don't know. Like I'm trying to. This is like really teasing me right now. A million frogs tweeting billions must die forever. Like that.
Well, there's probably some truth to that. I actually really don't like the Chud Jack billions must die take. Ironic or not, but
Yeah.
well, speaking of the e-girl thing, that's sort of the first super chat of the day is from Oros Post for $4.99 US. Geo give up thirst posting for this year's Lent. Focus on being a wholesome chungus.
Well, I think does simping go along with the chungusness, or is it like that's because that's a question. Like being a women respecter does, but not simping. But then
there's a very easy difference between women respecting or appreciating a woman versus thirst posting or the geo sign being tweeted out anytime that there's a picture of a woman with questionable looks.
True. But then some of them, like, I feel like we've said this before, like the simping, like the sort of the way in which like homely like mid women can like transfer like a sort of eroticism online, because like, you know, inflation is real, if you know what I mean. The delicious tacos,
The hoflation.
Hoflation, yeah. Like I feel like that is like a perversion of the original like girls next door ideal, where a woman could be attainable and they're not necessarily like fucking 10 out of 10 bombshell, but at the same time, like, you
Oh,
can love her.
we talked about this a few
Yeah,
episodes ago, that with OnlyFans, the girl next door, you know, your
yeah,
fantasy's attainable just for $8 a
exactly.
month.
Like even like a real like girl next door, like, you know, you can marry her, you can explore, you know, you could erotically explore each other, you know. But like when it comes to like selling that, like it seems every single day there's like a New York Post article about like, here is like this fat woman that makes like 10 grand a month on OnlyFans, or here's this like chubby girl with lopsided tits. You saw that the other day? Like, it's, you know,
Yeah,
it's like
you posted that
ridiculous.
in the group chat. You're like, I'm happy that nobody. You're
Yeah,
surprised
nobody
no one
did this,
posted the geo sign, and
the
I
geo
told you that
sign,
even you
yeah.
have standards, big guy.
Oh man. Or like, you know, like Billy posts about like the absolute inner destruction of Britney Spears. I'm like, bro,
More famously,
unfollow.
Spandrel's interrogatory. Would you bang?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Or was it like, has Spandrel been posting that stuff, or
No, he is not. I've been rather surprised that he has not gotten into the habit of would you or would you not. But I guess AA has taken up
a
that
lot of
mantle with his
people?
polling.
Yeah, but I know what AA is. See, AA, I know what he's doing because we think alike. I know what he's doing with the you know what I mean, with the would you bed, the competition. I feel like he's trying to revive something, you know, something deeper than like just lusting over like mid-tier celebrities. I feel like he's doing something sophisticated, but that's just me being AA's biggest soldier. So I'm just he always tags me in them too. Hey, he always tags me in them.
There you go.
Me and Furious. Yeah.
You are his horniest meds. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
I understand the who would you do, but I don't think I think Connolly's hot.
I don't
No,
think it's
Connolly is hot. Connolly is
Jennifer
hot.
Connelly
But
is.
I gotta go with my country women. Monica Bellucci blows Jennifer Connelly out of the water, okay? There you go.
I'm glad the Italians can agree on the home country girl.
Yeah, even though I probably would go with Connolly, but because Connolly does have that like attainability factor. You know what I mean? She's got like that mid girl OnlyFans vibe.
Paul Moosefoot for $9.99 US says, just supporting the show at work. He says, at work, we'll catch up later. Well, Paul Moosefoot, your super chat has been read, so you know that you've caught up with us. Thank you so much. Although there is this comment by here that kind of does talk a lot about my fiction reading. It's not a super chat, but I am going to bring it up, from Bartholomew the Red. He is the wonderful gentleman that did the giant Geo bingo sheet.
Yeah.
But he says, I don't read modern novels unless friends write them. Yeah, that's really been most of my fiction writing or reading has been what my friends have written. So, you know, Matt Pegas or Dan Baltic or Semi Agog or T.R. Hudson. I have not read a lot of fiction unless it's books by our friends.
Yeah. I should go to an MA Club in Violence Max. That's Reprobus. Thank you. That's, yeah.
All right, scrolling for the next one. Restoring Order, our good friend Patrick just sent a $2 super sticker that just says cool. So, the show is cool, and Restoring Order is cool. He just had an episode with Mr. Turnipseed last night. It was pretty good.
Was it last night?
Yeah, it was last night on Zoomers.
Nice.
But
he's been going around, Turnipseed. He's been getting around recently.
He sure has. He was on Millennial last year, not this most recent one. And yeah, he's been quite all over the place, which is good for him.
Yeah.
We got one Zoomer that's going to make it, kids. One. But of course, our good friend Spasticus Autisticus, I'm very thankful for this one. Did he say anything that was like memey or that I had to do? No, exactly
No.
£1 sterling and 0 pence for you. £1, nothing more, nothing less. Don't spend it all in one place.
He spared you the indignity.
He did spare me the indignity of the $1 super chats that got you going until you started escalating for tweets.
I'll never they'll never live. I'll never get lived down with that one.
Fishy Frenzy for £2 says, I'm feeling like 100 quid, but in reality, well, as long as you feel good, I guess in this regard, no black pills here, ladies and gents.
No, I wasn't watching live, Patrick, because I thought it was tonight. I thought it was after our stream. So I'll watch it.
I caught up with it this morning. I sometimes don't catch everything live, but there are like 4 or 5 people who go live
on Tuesdays.
I try to. I catch Dave as often as I can live on Tuesdays.
I watched a bit of Dave. I can't believe Dave is not. Never mind.
What?
Dave is not a fan of the Austrian painter. Did you see that in the chat?
Yes, I watched the stream. I'm not surprised in the slightest. Reprobus for $5 US says, sneeding for the cause in old-fashioned leet speak. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Nice.
Here we go. David
Battistini.
I think the last stream you mentioned AA having a gaming channel or something. If that's the case, could you kindly point me to it? Well, okay, the deep lore, David, is that it's not him, quote unquote. It's his friend Morcar. So if you look up Morcar, Morcar on YouTube, you will find a channel with about 2,500 subs of him playing video games. His wizardly friend Morcar, from football managers to like a 12-part series of him playing Dark Souls. Enjoy. It's quite entertaining, especially the Dark Souls bit, because if you've played a Souls-like, it's going to make you laugh and cringe. But let's keep scrolling.
Well, Jake Lloyd with another big super chat.
Oh, shit. I just saw. But this used to be Scrotchy McDumpwaffle, but he's changed his name to, I think, something even better, to Douglas Dimmadome, the owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome, for $4.99 US. And I get to say his name again. That's right. Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome. Well, I'm glad
Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome.
I'm glad someone kept up with their Fairly Odd Parents lore.
Oh, man.
One of the few cartoons I grew up watching as a kid.
Nice.
Probably not a good thing in retrospect.
Yeah, probably not.
Although I've never seen
it. Was that the one with the fairies?
Yeah. It was. In retrospect, it's probably awful.
There's erotica of that, you know.
You mentioned fan fiction earlier, Gio, and I think someone had pointed out that if you were to go to fanfiction.net, the longest composition of fiction in the English language is on fanfiction.net, and it's about the cartoon, like the Loud House or whatever.
Oh,
and it's got like over X amount of million words. And I think to myself,
or like My Immortal.
This is where we're at. This is where we're at with human achievement.
I used to listen to those Brent Daniel readings of like My Immortal, or like Dipper Goes to Taco Bell, or Man, Dipper Goes to Taco Bell.
Oh, man. Fishy Frenzy for £2 asks, do you guys like Terry Gilliam? Brazil is excellent. I like Terry Gilliam. I've seen Brazil, The Fisher King, 12 Monkeys, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and I have not seen The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. I know he directed it, but I haven't seen it. But I like him. I don't have an issue with him.
He did. I'm looking up his
I mean, he was the director, right, for Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Yeah. Oh, he did Fear and Loathing. Oh, Brothers Grimm's pretty good.
I have not seen that one.
Yeah, it was all right. It was with Cersei.
The
actress that plays Cersei. 12 Monkeys was excellent. That was a great movie. But the rest I haven't seen. I've seen Fear and Loathing. I've seen 12 Monkeys. I've seen Brothers Grimm. I may have seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And
you may?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I have. Yeah, I have. Yeah, maybe. It's like Lord of the Rings. I didn't actually read the Lord of the Rings. I just, I
haven't seen the movies. I've read the books.
Oh man, I'm the opposite. I've seen the movies, but I haven't read the books. Yeah, I know. Fake trad credit right there, but I should read
fake lit cell.
Yeah, fake lit cell. But 12 Monkeys was truly a masterpiece. So
yeah, 12. That should be that's a future movie review episode.
Yeah,
12 Monkeys. Trying to scroll down. I'm pretty sure I'm the dirtbag, right? Says Douglas Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome for
Oh,
$1.99.
you have to like read his whole name.
I sure do.
He like punishes you just by like
Well,
making you read it.
okay, so his super
I
chats
love
used to
Scrunchy
be.
McDumple waffles.
I
like
liked that one. I'm not gonna lie, I like that one more because the super chat would just say, "I like it when people say my name." But he's gotten more elaborate, more devious. He's truly the capitalist of his kind with his investments because now I have to read a longer name.
Tree beard and a tree saw joke last week. What? What are you talking about, Herlock Shaloms? All right, so Jake Lloyd, make it even, geo-baited me last week. Good stuff. Yeah, man.
Well,
It's
thank you, Jake.
amazing.
I greatly appreciate it. I'm not trying to like. I'm trying to scroll through chat because I've been like going up and to get to the super chats to show them on screen, and then I just saw restoring order saying, "Yeah, already charged back the super chat." Oh no.
Oh no. Yeah, Lena Headey was pretty good in those roles, but then like I don't know, Cersei ruined everything, man. Like Game of Thrones just ruined everything for a little bit there. I remember like one of the best tweets I had was the finale Game of Thrones. They said like basically like with R.R. Martin, like the world just goes back to like the managerial, like the liberal, like childless liberal managerial state. Like that's how it ends. So was it? Yeah, I think she was in.
She was in 300, and she's been in a few other movies, but yeah. I have not seen Time Bandits, but Sean, but I do think that Brazil's pretty damn good. Oh, she was in Dread. Okay, I'm gonna have to rewatch Dread and find her now. Because you only think about once you get set in a certain role, it's so prolific. It kind of blinds them from other roles. Like that's the big reason why I hated 1917. First half of that movie's amazing, and then the second half is okay or whatever. I have issues with it, but like the ending, and I'm going to spoil it. Sorry, but it killed the movie for me. Where at the end he finally delivers the message to the general, and it's played by none other than fucking Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'm like, oh, the movie's ruined for me. It's over. I just wasted 2 hours of my life to have myself totally pulled out of this World War I epic by Benedict Cumberbatch. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Is he like why is he famous Downtown Abbey? But he's been like everything though.
Oh, I mean Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Doctor Strange.
I don't know what else he's done actually. But I saw that and I was just taken out of it. I was like, oh.
I've heard of this Copenhagen Cowboy that was pretty good riffing, but I was listening to the Obese Goth / Night Owls movie review space last night for the what's it called, the Grammys, or no, not the Grammys, the Hollywood thing, what's it called?
Oh yeah, and Sherlock Holmes, that's what he was famous for.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, but see, I prefer the the movies that what's the guy's name? He played a good Sherlock Holmes. Robert Downey Jr.
I don't know if those are some fun, feel-good action movies if you've not read anything written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah.
Although I will say,
but I like the original
I like
80s
Harris
one
as Moriarty. I get upset because Jared Harris he's known as the British guy in Mad Men, but as well as in Chernobyl, he kills it in that role.
But he was really great in The Terror,
he was. But what irks me about Jared Harris is he gets this like small, tiny scene as Ulysses S. Grant in Lincoln, a few years back. And I'm like, why have they not done a Lincoln biopic with him playing Grant? You could easily base it off of the new biography of his, the same Ron Chernow, the same guy that did Hamilton's biography. And both of those biographies are pretty good. I like the Grant one more because it paints him in a much more positive light. But it's just like, I don't know. Jared Harris is an underutilized actor, and I get mad.
Yeah, but my favorite Sherlock Holmes is the series from the 80s with what's his name? The original one. Was it the 70s or 80s? It was the 80s one. Yeah. That was my favorite one. But anyways, do you have them in your super chats?
Who was in that?
Jerry Brett. Sorry, Jerry
Brett.
There
you go, Jerry Brett.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen one or two of those. I've not seen the whole thing.
I watch it. Me and my old man rewatch it around Christmas. It's like a very Christmassy type of vibe going on.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, one of these days, I will dedicate some time. I don't really watch a lot of television at all these days,
Yeah, me either.
but I will dedicate time to watch that.
I wanted to watch the new Dahmer series, but I ended up rewatching Farscape. So, but
Farscape is Kino.
yeah, they say Dahmer's good. Like the Netflix one is good, but I've like it's funny because I was listening to that Twitter space and I haven't watched any of these newer films that got nominated. Like who won? Like what films are like that Blondie film or like I don't know. Like it seems like movies are dying in general. It seems like series and like low budget stuff is like where it's at now.
Yeah, I
Um
mean, I think that's the other thing too is that the guys that made the People versus O.J. Simpson docudrama
yeah.
it's really good. I'm not gonna lie, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, they made that?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's
Man.
like a 10 episode series. It's pretty good. Um, and they also did one about like Pamela Anderson and Tommy and the sex tape in the 90s. Just
Oh wow.
and that one is like I feel like that is I don't want that to be the direction television goes into, where we're just gonna like rehash like dramatized history and try and do character portrayals of like scummy people. But that tends to be where I think things are going.
Mm,
Because again, like Dahmer, it's just we're burning out of classic Gen X and millennial IPs to destroy. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
it's the famous Comic Con 2015 bit where they interviewed Harrison Ford. It's just like, are you going to live long enough to be in every single reboot sequel of every franchise you've ever done? And he says yes. And they've already done Star Wars. They already killed that. Blade Runner 2049. It depends on your take on it. And now they're going to do that. According to leaks, right? They're going to totally like write Indiana Jones out of existence. So we'll
Whoa.
see.
They're gonna give it to a black woman now?
I think they're giving it to some woman, but I don't.
Oh.
Got to decolonize history, kids.
Isn't 007 a black woman now?
I did not watch the last one. The only thing that I know about the last No Time to Die is the way that they get rid of Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
It's been memed to death about, billions must die.
Oh my god. They should remake Predator, but it's like a black woman. But then like the Predator will be like a white man though. It won't be like
Yeah,
a
not an
Jamaican
alien.
looking.
Not an alien.
Yeah, no, it'll be like no, it will still be an alien, but it'll look like an Aryan Ubermensch.
No, there you
Instead
go.
of it'll look like the guy from it'll look like Alien,
It'll
the
look like
remake.
Chad.
Yeah, it'll look like Giga Chad, and like instead of it looking like a Jamaican Giga Chad, it'll be like
It'll be
like
Hyperborean Giga Chad.
Schwarzenegger.
Indo-Aryan Step Warrior.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger will be played by Lizzo, and Lizzo has to fight Aryan Giga Chad. They'll find like the guy.
Come on, kill me! I already ate breakfast this morning.
The breakfast thing. I don't eat breakfast anymore because I fast for 24 hours. But I kind of miss breakfast. I miss, but then like sometimes you'll have like breakfast for dinner. I do that, my folks. But like no, but like what's the is it true like black women and breakfast? Like what's this meme? I'm not American, so
the meme emerges from a 4chan green text saying that individuals below a certain IQ number cannot do certain types of hypothetical questions. Like, well, what if you didn't eat breakfast this morning? Well, what do you mean?
Yeah,
I already ate breakfast this morning. Yeah, that one.
What if you didn't though?
Yeah, what if you didn't? But I did. That's the meme.
But what would you say though? Like if someone asked you, "What if you didn't eat breakfast this morning?"
Well, I'd imagine that I would be hungry and earlier, and I would want to eat something sooner or have a larger lunch. Not the well. What do you mean? I already ate breakfast.
That's why
that's the meme.
Gum.
That's the.
Nicorette gum's intense, bro. Like it gives you a rush though. It gives you like, then you feel calm after. But nicotine really does suppress your hunger. It's good. It makes you sharper. You're calmer. It really is a miracle drug. Like I feel like, like this is the problem with like terminal like weed head like millennial discourse. Everyone like that clip from Bill Hicks where he's like You know, it's funny because they let you have like alcohol and tobacco to make you productive. This is
Yeah.
back in like the early 90s. And like, you know, they suppress things that make you think, bro, like weed. They suppress weed. Now we live in the opposite reality, and it's terrible, where weed is acceptable, but they demonize tobacco. And like nobody's productive. Like here in
No
Canada,
more tobacco, but you can microdose on LSD to code.
exactly. Yeah, it's terrible. It's like, you know, it doesn't open your third eye. It just you know, it's like microdosing anything is like terminal, like functionoid, like bug man refinement culture stuff. It's terrible. But no, go, yeah, please go. If I encourage you to go and smoke, no, I'm kidding. I'm not. No, don't do it. Unless it's like pure tobacco, like American Spirit or whatever. Even still, don't smoke. I mean,
This is,
probably not
are
good
you
for you.
advocating for the traditional European breakfast of 1 black coffee and 1 cigarette?
The who is breakfast, as my grandmother used to say. We need women to like smoke. We need women to smoke and have black coffee in the morning, because I feel like the transmogrified diet
that is
of
the
like,
ultimate way to achieve 0 HP Lovecraft's dream of she can lose
yeah,
some weight.
in European beauty standards. Because like women like having samosas and like, you know, sugary breakfast cereals and whatever, like those TikTok girl bosses, you know, when they have their like, you know, their whatever they have in the Bugman cubicle. They don't have cubicles anymore, but you know, the offices where they have like their
With your beanbag chair.
your beanbag chair and your like water, like flavor water bar, and you're like
Wagner, microdosing is the biochemical virtual GF.
oh, brutal. Yeah, it'll be like that. But like, it's funny. One time I said this, I asked Default about the sexuality of the girl boss, and she's like, this like girl bosses having sex is hideous, brutal, and non-erotic. It's like they don't have sex, they conquer. And I'm like, whoa, that's it's true though. Like, because originally the girl boss is like
Well,
this
just
sexless.
look at Caroline Ellison.
Yeah, it's like this terrible, like it's like Ayala describing her sex life. It's like a spreadsheet. It's like, you know, they have to organize like the experiment. It's like, it's terrible. It's corporatized. It's just disgusting. It's like, you know,
Donald
it's not
Trump
like
gaming is absolutely right. Bill Hicks said horrible, you know, I'm going to say R-slur stuff with good presentation. So
yeah,
true.
exactly.
So
I feel
true.
like most like millennial leftist discourse, this is what they learned from Jon Stewart, is like, if you were to if you present an idea in an ultra snarky way, like this is how the new atheists got it. You know what I mean? Like if you present it in like a cynical, snide, like who's the British guy?
John Oliver.
Yeah, like John Oliver, or like Jeffrey, like what's the guy's name? Jeffries. Like if you present it, well, he's Australian, but like, yeah, John Oliver. Like if you present something in like a cynical, snarky, dismissive way, then like total like low IQ mongoloids will like think that you're smart and like what you're saying is sound, and that everyone agrees with it.
To me, it's just, I mean, it's Pavlovian, but it's Pavlovian, but it's also homeopathic politics. We're gonna give you the slightest dose of the world's shittiest take in its tiniest, most homeopathic format. And if we lap that onto a laugh track, you will agree that you are a well-informed political person. Where, you know, there was a whole generation of people that said they got their news from Jon Stewart, and Jon Stewart ruined a whole generation of millennials.
Yeah, exactly. Unironically, Jon Stewart ruined a whole generation of millennials. Yeah, like that's like the Reddit snark thing, you know? It's just, I feel like certain right wingers try to like capitalize on that. Like what would be a right wing equivalent would be like
there isn't one.
I don't know. Like
the closest thing that you got was maybe 2015, 2016 era Tommy Lauren. But even then, she decided to embrace her inner girl boss and child sacrifice, and now she does her own thing.
Maybe like Richard Spencer had that energy. I don't know. Like he had that, like, remember when he was like destroying those people in like that college in Texas?
Yeah, you're a hag. You're a spinster. There was an energy to
There
early.
was like
There was
I
some
love his
meme magic energy to Richard
like the
Spencer back then.
cattiness of Richard Spencer. Like he was like, you know what? Like you're a spinster, and like, listen, I don't want to go there. Like, but someone quote tweeted Amy Therese before she got nuked again, where he's like, you know what, you're a spinster. Listen, I don't want to go there. Like he said it like immediately, like within a hairbreadth. Like after he said spinster, he's like, listen, I don't want to go there. Like there's something about Richard Spencer when he's like when he was like chewing, like, listen, I don't agree with Richard Spencer on anything, but like when he was on, he was on. Like it was this cattiness, this like like I don't know, man. Like something about him. Like when he was when one of the best clips I've ever seen from Richard Spencer was when he said on stream, he's like, I think it's kind of over. And like the way he
Yeah.
like crooked his face and the way he like looked so disappointed, like in that, gay man type of way. Like it was like, I think it's kind of over. And like I don't know, man. Like
I guess a
he's
little bit
funny, bro.
of that would be apparently, Kevin Clearman says don't walk, run has that energy. I guess
Yeah.
to some extent you could say it's negative XP. Dominic Frisbee for the Brits, although he's more
Yeah.
libertarian, pro Brexit. Just the musical humor goes a long way. But I mean, there's not really an explicit like equivalent. But then again, I think it's probably a good thing.
Probably a good thing, yeah.
But man, oh man, there's a lot of funny people on the right. I mean, the funniest
Oh,
people I've
man.
met have been on this time here. But oh well,
I feel like maybe Night Owls could be like that.
Yeah, that's for sure. That could be the closest thing that we've got.
Like if Nightmare Vision like it chews you out, then you know you've done something wrong. Like he's got a way of just like destroying people. Like it's hilarious. But yeah, I love Nightmare, bro. I love Future Moldovan.
Well, Gio, as we roll here on to the end, where can people find you, and what would you like to promote?
Yeah, sure. I just did. Oh, I didn't mention that. I just did my episode of Content Minded with Praise of Folly. We talked about Baudrillard and the cultural simulation, and you can now both the free version. There's always a bit more in the free version on my channel and on Anchor and Spotify, but you can find all the links. My Twitter, my Telegram, but Generate Productions on YouTube. And now you can, if you don't prefer Patreon, you can now pay for my Substack, which has all of the archives of every Content Minded, every Generate Review, all the other paywalled content I have. You can either go to patreon.com/Generate Productions, or you could go to Gio's Content Corner on Substack, and you could pay for that if you don't want to give money to Patreon. So there you go. I have all things covered. I, of course, also have Buy Me a Coffee. I have my, PayPal link, paypal.me, if you want to like donate directly. And, my Twitter, of course, at Giant Geo. And yeah, that's all my links, my link tree. You can find everything. Yeah. So
you've also got your Find My Friends link down below.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. I also have a list. I believe it's also on Find My Friends now, but I have a Substack link with all my interviews, which I have to update actually to put Millennial on. So I have also a bunch of other things coming up too, like Pharaoh's channel. Maybe I believe this Sunday I'm going to be with Pharaoh, and I believe Yiz wanted me to do something. So yeah, many stuff on the way. And I don't know, next week I might either have a solo stream because I want to like really promote the default one. So I have like a bunch of interviews lined up. I have to like do a bunch of interviews with people because I like to keep my stock of episodes pretty high, or else I start to panic when I only have like a few Content Mindeds. I'm like, oh my god, I better do something. So yeah.
Well, there you go. Gio's links to both his Patreon, Find My Friends, Buy Me a Coffee, and his YouTube channel are all linked down below in the description. As for me, I've got a new Substack out. I always leave a little bit open for people to read behind the paywall, but it's a rather lengthier essay discussing the term and metaphor of the leftist ratchet. This Saturday, we will be taking a look at 2023 predictions and some of the elite publications and what they're worried about on this episode of Prudent Observations, just to see where we might be going in this year's forecast of geopolitical events. And then we will have a new video out this coming week on Wednesday, the 18th. And after that, we are also going to have a wonderful, wonderful discussion. I'm trying to pin down the date, but I've got some really good stuff coming up in the near future with some guests as well. And with that, my links are, of course, down below in the description. Access to future videos and seeing them before they go early, opportunities to come on stream, and also Patron Book Club. We will be doing that on Saturday, the 28th of this month. We'll be covering Oswald Spengler's Man and Technics. If you can't make it, don't worry. Those will be recorded and accessible to all patrons, regardless of where you are on the tiers. So by all means, support the channel down below with Subscribestar or Buy Me a Coffee, or as well as Substack, whatever you may choose. And next week we'll be on Gio's channel, so stay tuned, everybody.
What tiers do you have? Because I have mine like at the $20 level, you get artist prints. At $30, I mean at $50 level, you also get that, and you get a painting of a Bob Ross style painting. So, and you get other things. And I'm actually working on doing a zine of my prints that I'm gonna put to all my patrons as well, that the $20 and $50 levels. So, but what do you give them? What do you give them, Prude?
Well, besides access to exclusive content, things that I also put exclusively behind the paywall, those that have interesting topics on U.S. history or politics that they want to bring up, there's always an opportunity to come on Prudent Perceptions. And then for those that are at the $20 level or higher, they get access to essays that I haven't been seeing for the upcoming book that'll be out soon this summer. And there'll be some more stuff in the near future. I also do weekly, it'll be twice a week. There'll be videos on random observations and politics and takes on things that are going to be similar to the Christmas address that I gave. So just some conversations, Paul Harrell style, out in the woods with my camera and phone. So a lot of exclusive content. I mean, most of the stuff, of course, I do is here, but there's always stuff behind the paywall. But I don't have a $50 tier or anything like that. I'm quite something to consider, but I usually just have it from 2, 5, 10, 15, and 20.
Yeah, maybe I was thinking of putting another tier, but I mean I like the 4 tier thing, but I'm thinking of doing doing a stream with my patrons. Because I promised people I'd do a Discord. So
I have a Discord exclusively for patrons, so they get access to conversations, memes, discussions on where they can also submit topics for me to research on for foreign policy and things like that. I have a guy from Finland who sends me a bunch of stuff about what their country is up to in regards to politics. So having a large scale international audience really does help with getting my research and hearing back what everyone thinks about what the hell's going on in the world.
I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the Discord thing because people have been demanding that I do not just my Telegram channel, but
so now proud GeoCells can also be proud GeoCell Discord kittens.
There you go. Yeah. Hopefully there'll be e-girls in there and everything. So no, probably not. But no, yeah. And one thing we didn't talk about. Oh my God, I'm actually surprised. I'm shocked. We didn't talk about the stove thing, but maybe it's getting late. So
yeah,
do you want to talk about the stove? It's so ridiculous. Like gas stoves are far superior in every way. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, gas stoves are superior, and good luck when the natural gas industry in the United States is still one of the most powerful lobbies in America. But I mean, and apparently the consumer people had said that they're not going to do it. But I mean, this is the thing: is that a left-wing meme can get itself to subvert and infiltrate the right-wing mimetic cyber space before the truth or the debunk or what actually is happening gets its pants on.
Exactly.
That's the really crafty way that the regime operates, is that it can take advantage of right-wing meme space and use it to fearmonger and make them look like idiots. And I don't know who said it, whether it was Kofefe Annan or someone else, but the left uses passive voice, whereas the right will do something, right? And it's more active, and then they can use that against us. And how
you're a freak for noticing. That's how this is what Name Your Vision said in a group chat. He said it's sort of like the trans thing where the way it works is it'll percolate in like left-wing circles and academic circles, and then all of a sudden a bunch of like NGOs and media groups will like all of a sudden overnight adopt a position, and then they'll go to like the mainstream normie cons like Matt Walsh, and they'll be like, wow, you're like a psycho for noticing it, how we like just adopted this position all of a sudden. Because what will happen is a mainstream Democrat politician will like ape the talking points the way they did with the trans thing, where like Biden has to like get interviewed by Mulvaney. And like then people will be like, wow, you're creepy and weird and you don't touch grass for noticing it. And so they'll literally go to like Matt Walsh and they'll be like, wow, the chuds don't get their gaseous treats now. They'll have to cook with induction or whatever. And that's how they do it. Like it's literally a game to them of discourse. And then right-wing people will like do things like, I'm basically going to cook with each burner on just to own the chuds. Or sorry, to own the libs. And they'll be like, look, the chuds are like poisoning themselves with gas stoves to own us. They don't touch grass.
Yeah, they don't touch grass, and AOC will talk about how access or being exposed to NO2 can reduce cognitive function. So the left wing once again gets to encourage HBD when it's necessary.
It'll be like the inner city kids eating paint chips discourse. It'll be like that.
That's where it is basically.
Yeah.
It'll be flipped on us where we'll make fun of or like certain online racists. They'll be like, yeah, they literally eat like dirt pies or whatever, and it's like, do you
even
see
when
those
they have
chuds?
access to other food?
Do you see those chuds? They use gas stoves. It'll be like that.
That was the racist Tobey Maguire account. Whereas
like, Based Peter Parker. He's back on Twitter. Peter Parker.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Based. You mean yes? Even when they have access to other food sources. Remember? Oh man, Based Peter Parker. What an account! I
already bought the game. What do you mean? I'm like a sexist and a homophobe. I already told you I bought it.
That was like this tweet where Paul Scholes, he deleted that tweet about RPing, like in the ancient world. And then I quote tweeted Nightmare Vision fan. Not I quote tweet, I respond like, well, he only advocates for it though. Not that he does it, but I don't know where I'm going with that one.
Oh well, we'll figure it. Eventually.
But Paul Scholes did have a tweet he deleted about.
Well, isn't there a Forgotten Lindy Man account the same way that there's Forgotten Land Shark?
Yeah.
So there's always a record. If you're a big enough e-celeb, someone will keep your takes that you
Forgotten Nemitz.
Forgotten Nemitz, that's another one.
Can you imagine like if he was in charge of public health?
I know that my water system would be a lot better.
No, but like when he taught, like there would like the fast food industry would be like on its knees overnight if Peter Nemitz was in charge of public health in a new administration.
Well,
Big Sugar would
only
basically
you can
disappear.
make Base World happen, kids.
Make Big Sugar disappear.
You can do this, guys. You can do it. But we'll see you all next week on Gio's channel.
Yeah. Ciao.
All right. See you, gents.
God bless.